Okay, sound is speeding. Gabriel.
Camera speeding. We're in, baby.
We're in, man.
And
We're in, man. I got the broke boy mic. I'm used to. Now I'm feeling a little awkward, dude. Because I don't have my, like.
You gotta hold it up. You gotta hold it up.
What?
I don't know if you. It's the first time we did it.
Oh, wait, shit. This sound's not speeding, dude. Oh, geez. So we'll have at the beginning, we'll have.
Speeding?
What?
What was?
So at the beginning, we'll just have just me. What was speeding was my phone. Which everyone cares most about me, and they're gonna want, hear what I'm saying and stuff.
Great.
Are you gonna pick up your mic, or no one can hear you right now? This
I'm
is
a
the
little
disaster.
busy
This
at
is
the
a disaster. This is a disaster. It's the Movie Addicts Pod. I have multiple mics now. It's like my press conference.
I have a mic now. Thank you.
All right, so the sound is actually speeding. I'm still very concerned about how this is gonna go. We're off to a tough start here.
This is a good start. I got my bowl of oatmeal.
So yeah, you're gonna eat oatmeal.
Oh,
during
absolutely.
this whole bit.
This is it, man. This
Did
is
we?
my shtick.
Ben
I'm also
said he didn't
starving.
want anything to eat. So
You're not a hungry guy?
You're not concerned.
you're not
about
allergic to
like
peanuts, are you?
No.
I just got nervous again. I gotta watch out for putting
Well,
a scoop
Sam,
of peanut butter
I just had this
inside of mine.
instinct that Sam was allergic to peanuts.
You must have seen his eyes like fleet down to the bowl, nervously.
Yeah, it must have been something. It's like that Malcolm Gladwell book, Blink.
blink.
I kind of hate this pillow. I might throw the pillow away.
Well, don't put it in the pile of water in the corner under the
Yeah.
AC.
So you're
God,
not
Gabe, you're being a
concerned
real
about, like,
dick
the
this morning.
misophonia people like listening. He's gonna get all pissed off.
Oh
about your-
no!
your
Don't say
oatmeal.
that. I'm not trying to get canceled over. What was it called? Misophonia.
Misophonia, like people who like hate this, like the sound. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I will say I do my best to like when I'm chewing.
Yeah.
When I'm chewing, and then I bring it back when I'm not. Because I literally sometimes have like an apple like. Good call. Ben definitely thinks
So
I'm
who
a
do we,
psycho now.
Gabe? Who do we have here?
Wait. 3,
2, 1. Oh wait, do we do it again with Ben? Ben, so we do 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Well, we already got the sound sync, but we just want to do it with the whole team. Fuck you, man. You know what I mean.
Again.
Gabe's being the biggest dick to me this
Are
morning,
you
dude.
kidding me right now? Gabe, go get the soundboard.
I just leave. God forbid you get the soundboard so I can have a little bit of fun.
It's been pure chaos since I've gotten.
Yeah. All right, ready? All right, ready? 3 on 1. Get Ben. We clap. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, that was beautiful.
Hell yeah.
I'm
Off to a
crying.
great
I'm
start.
crying.
This is going really well.
What?
Off to a good start.
Yeah, it's off to a great start. I'm flailing. I'm panicking. I'm you know what I mean. So no, I'm actually not.
Got the leaky AC over there.
Yeah, leaky AC.
Absolutely.
We have AC now on the Movie Addicts podcast.
We do.
We've got a little white noise in the background. Who do we have here today? We have none other than
Go
Benjamin Jacob Grant.
You know my middle name?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Why do I know your middle name? I don't know.
Well, yours is Charles, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
We have none other than Benjamin Jacob Grant. He's a director of photography. He's not just a cinematographer.
No.
He's not just a director of cinematography, as he
No.
once claimed he was in a group chat
Yes.
for Magnolia Flowers. He's a director of photography. The man's a goddamn artist. He's a goddamn legend to me.
Genius.
Genius. Brilliant. And then he'll always go, he does the Massachusetts thing where, like, you say something good about him, he's like,
He just wins.
you know what I mean? He just sort of, like, swats it away. He's just like, get out of here with that. But, no, the man he's truly brilliant. He's a newly married man,
Ooh.
which is cool.
New game.
New game. He's a new phase of his life. The guy is one of the hardest workers I know. So he's getting real. You can feel him, like, sort of looking down. You can feel
start
it.
spraying him just to keep him cool.
And there's a reason why I'm
good.
wearing a Bruins jersey is because Ben and I, Massachusetts shit going on, Massachusetts vibes. Ben's from Swampscott. I'm from Hingham. Different vibes, but Massachusetts brothers nonetheless.
Hell
And, yeah, I mean, is there anything you want to say about yourself that I didn't say?
No, I think you got it.
Oh,
Do you
shit.
remember, how we met?
We met because I was doing a short film called Not Even a Gravestone, and which there will be a feature version of at some point. Ben has read, like, the feature script up for it.
Great script.
Yeah, thank you. It is a great script. Like, it just is.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's great. I mean, it's great. I read it and I'm just over the
Very
moon.
excited.
I don't even know what to do with myself.
Hell yeah.
There will be a feature, but Ben and I were doing a short film called Not Even a Gravestone, sort of a short version of what this feature will be. Granted, they're so different. But it It was one of my first like real short films, I would say, and it was Ben. Ben sent me an email, and I watched his reel. I loved it, and then we met for coffee in like downtown Boston.
Pavement Coffee on Boylston Street.
That's crazy that you remember that.
I had so many meetings there.
Okay.
When I was still in
OMG.
Boston.
I could tell he
That
was comfortable. I remember.
Ben's got it locked in.
That was like my medium.
No,
place.
yeah.
I love that.
That's so interesting though because, I remember vividly being like, "What's this guy gonna look like?" I drive downtown, whatever, and I see this dude wearing like aviator glasses, just posted up at this table, and I'm like, "That guy looks scary. It couldn't be that guy," and it was that guy. No, I'm joking, man. I'm joking. But I was like, "Oh, this guy looks intense," which he is. You're an intense guy. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Intense.
I can be.
Focused?
Intense.
Focused?
Focused. He looked
Professional?
dialed in.
Yes.
He looked dialed in to me. You had already read the script, I think. I think so. Because you were
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
I was like, "Hey, man, I love your reel. We should work together." And you were like, "Hold on. Let me read the script." Like, that's basically what you said, which I respect the shit out of. Because,
Yeah,
like,
of course.
if the script was dog shit, obviously you're not signing up for that.
No.
For no pay and whatever.
Of course not.
So you read the script and you go, "Script is great." And then I think we met up. That's how I'm remembering it. That might not be correct.
Sounds right. I think we met on Craigslist.
Yes. Oh, that's also true. I forgot about that part of
Holy
the story.
shit.
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
This is next level.
I posted okay, this is all right, we're going even deeper. My hairdresser in Massachusetts, Karen, I was like, "Karen, I need to work with some new people in Massachusetts, some film people, but like I don't know how to find them." She goes, because she's done hair and makeup for a bunch of different
Got it.
music videos, stuff, like actually pretty big stuff.
She's like, "I know this guy named Craig."
He's got a
got a
list.
list.
Yeah, he's got a list, and you should check it out. And so there was a posting. I made a posting on there, like looking for a bunch of different things, and then Ben responded with his reel. And you had done Wise Gals with Anna Remus
Right, yeah.
at that point, which had a bunch of footage from Wise Gals was in your reel.
Because it's the one decent thing I shot.
Yeah, yeah, and it looked really good.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, "Holy shit, this guy's like a real deal guy."
Yeah.
And there's not that many. I mean, I don't know how fair this is, but in terms of, I think you probably do feel this way to a certain extent, Ben. Like, there's not that many like bona fide, legit people living and working as DPs in Massachusetts. Straight up, would you say that's fair?
There's like 5.
Right. Okay. So I watched your reel, and I'm like, "Oh, this guy's like legit. You know, this guy's the real deal." And so I was like, I wanted for the first time one of my movies to like look and sound kind of like a movie. And that's kind of what Gravestone is and was. It's like, and I think there were like failings on my part in terms of like, but I just had no money. I literally like was working at Dunkin' Brands and just putting every dollar of my paychecks into fucking Not Even a Gravestone, driving around, picking up gear. We shot it at my uncle's house. He was pissed. Which I maybe never told you. My Uncle Richard was like, "You told me it was going to be 20 people. It was 30 people," or whatever. He was mad at me, and I was like, "Dude, whatever." Shout out to Uncle Rich. See you at my cousin Jack's wedding next summer, Ireland.
Wow.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's going to be sick. Yeah, I'm a groomsman, dude.
Holy
My cousin
cow.
called me. He's like, "You want to be a groomsman?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, I'm there."
Oh, you're going to have a blast.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Great.
It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be hammered. That's going to be electric. God bless America. God bless the motherland, Ireland, and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, man. So Ben, that's how we met.
So where has Ben been since Not Even a Gravestone?
Do you want to kind of update the people? Like so many. I mean, that guy's been anywhere and everywhere. Like, you know what I mean? You've been on a journey. Like, do you want to try to recap that? Like, what you've done since we met? Like, a lot of shit. It's a lot of shit.
You get
but,
10 words. 10 words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when we first met, I was like barely a DP. I mean, I had like that one good thing, and then a couple like of these like really small kind of shitty short films that had like 1 or 2 good shots that
Sure.
I was able to turn into a reel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we met, and then we did that little thing, and that was kind of like I'd say the beginning of probably both of our careers. And yeah, I kind of really don't look at my career really started until I left Boston. Because like you said, like Boston at the time, it's gone a lot better, honestly, because there's like the tax incentives now, and you know,
Yeah,
there's a lot
that's
of
true.
production happening there.
Yeah.
But for like department heads and I'd say directors and writers is a tough place to be. There's such a ceiling. And so, like, after I graduated, I did, like, a year out in Boston and, did some, like, corporate work, some commercials, and, as much short film and narrative work as I could to kind of, like, build up a reel because, like, the goal was always, L.A., right? So, yeah, after, like, a year in Boston, I was like, okay, I'm ready to step it up and get into the bigger markets, and moved out to L.A., and, coming out here really changed my life. Because it's just like if you can meet the right people and get them to give you a shot, it's just like the budgets out here are better, the creative out here is incredible.
Yeah, talent density.
The talent is huge.
Yeah.
And my work just like doubled in quality in like the first year out here. Even with like COVID and all that stuff happening, it was just like moving out here really like just allowed me to grow so much faster. It's like being that like, small fish in the big sea mentality. So like since I've been out here, it's been a good mix of commercial and narrative. I try and do as much narrative as possible, but commercials is for the most part what pays the bills.
Pays the bills.
Yeah.
At the moment.
At the moment, like the features and stuff will pay decent because you have so many days, but it's been a good healthy mix of long form and short form stuff, and here we are.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you're also, I think what people like, you're sort of talented and wise and mature beyond like your years, because you're 26, yeah? So you're like a year older than me, but I think Ben you sort of feel like a guy, and this doesn't, I don't mean in terms of how you look great. but
it's the bag.
Yeah. It's because you work so hard, man. Yeah. But you really do, I think you're this is probably why we work well together, is because you almost want to be treated as if you're 5 years advanced of where you are now. Yeah. You want to be respected and treated that way, which I totally feel. But then sometimes you have to remember, wait, I'm 26 or I'm 25, and this is a fucking marathon. And that's a tough thing sometimes to like. But sometimes you do have to step back and go, oh fuck, like I'm a young dude. I'm not. You know what I mean? I haven't been doing this because you're so. I believe in you so much, and you're a fucking talented, really talented guy, and artist. But it's like, it's going to take so much time, and I've learned this as like a director too, and as a writer, it's going to take so much time for other people to start to see that, the reality, to see your abilities, and so for that to be shared, and people go, wait, who's that guy? I want to work on a broader scale. That takes a lot of time, For sure. It is such a marathon. That's one of the hardest parts, I think, about being in this field anyways, is just like, you want to do these big things, and you're on Instagram and you're seeing all these other people do these big things, and you realize, well, they've been out here for 15 years grinding nonstop, doing all this other bullshit before that. Can I swear? Yeah. We swear a ton on this goddamn podcast. So you see all that, that you don't see all the bullshit that they had to do to get there, and now you're just seeing all the amazing stuff that they're doing. Absolutely. And that's the comparison is tough, but every once in a while I gotta like, you sit back and you gotta be like, listen, dude, you're doing stuff that 3 years ago you were dreaming of doing. Right. And like now here you are, and now you're thinking about, oh, I want to do this now. Yeah, man. Like, but you gotta just appreciate a little bit about where you are, and like you're making a decent living, supporting yourself, and you're doing literally exactly what you want to be doing. Yeah, man. Obviously there's always bigger budgets and creative and all that stuff, but it sometimes just living in the moment and like trying to appreciate where you are in life is super important. Totally. But, yeah. Absolutely, man. And I do you have anything to toss in there, Gabe?
If anything, I'm super inspired to hear that you're like finding your way. Within your, because you also
he works so goddamn hard. I mean, it's not some like big mystery.
No, not at all.
Like that's what Ben has, that fucking Massachusetts work ethic, that New England work ethic of like, I need to work so hard that's like gonna die. Like, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like this like.
For hundreds of years, we like worked on a farm. Then they put us as like plumbers in the basement, and now we're
ditch diggers and shit. Exactly.
But you said something earlier. You said coming out here gave you so many more opportunities, which I think, feel free to hammer in at any point for like anyone else who A, wants to be a director of photography, but like B, for me, I guess I'm the newest one to LA out of the three of us. You were here first, followed by you for school.
I was here first.
So you were here first for school,
USC.
and then you followed professionally.
Yeah.
I came out here like 6 months ago, and
How do you like it?
I think it's great, but it's definitely one of those things where I do need to push myself to meet more people.
That's it.
You know,
Right.
and I have to kind of like conjure up those opportunities. I need to get creative, other than just like, wow, let's meet up and be friends. You know, it's like, are there? And it sounds kind of silly, but like, are there mixer events? Are there more auditions and classes I could be taking? Again, it's probably different for an actor compared to.
It's totally different for an actor.
But I just, I gotta find a way to plug in more.
I mean, it's so hard for an actor, right? Because it's like, for a DP, if you have good work, it's really easy to get, I think, to get that out there, and it's very, like, black and white. Someone sees your reel and they see your work, and they're like, oh, I love this guy's style.
Right.
I can hire him. For an actor, you can be the most incredible actor in the world, but it's like there's that one role, and you're probably not right for 90% of those roles, because that's just not what they're looking for. So,
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
true.
totally different. But yeah, I still think just like, meeting as many people as you can is so great. And that's what's awesome about LA, right? That you can go to any dinner party, you're going to run into another filmmaker and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
It's just, even if they don't have work for you now, it's like a couple of people that when I first reached out to, like when I first got here and I reached out to them 3 years ago, are now hitting me up for work. And I hadn't talked to them in like 3 years. So it's just like planting that seed and just keeping those relationships, I think is really, really important. But yeah, it's a marathon.
Definitely a note that, like, in the same way that you were talking about maybe being self-conscious about other people's online presence, people are always watching from afar, and for them to disappear for 6 months and then come back, that's how it is. That is
I've noticed that with social media. I think what's good is I've been reminding myself more recently, like, when you see someone doing something cool on social media, like work-wise, when you see someone doing something cool or achieving something cool, it's like it's always going to look bigger than it is.
Yeah.
And I remember like with magnolia flowers, one of my friends from Massachusetts sort of said once to me casually, and I don't think he was kidding. I think he goes, "Oh, well, now that you're big." And he didn't mean it as an insult. He meant, I think he really thought in that moment, he's like, I'm big. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm like the smallest dude of all. But it's all going to look, it's all perception, right? Yeah. It's like, if you make a feature for $70,000 like we did for basically pennies, like it might still, I mean, granted, because Ben's shooting it, it's going to look and feel and if it's good, which I think Magnolia Flowers is good, it's going to look and feel bigger than it really is. Right. And that's not to be self-deprecating, but it's like there's a reality to it that you're in tune with and other people are not in tune. They're going to see it and go like, oh, God, this guy's not even approachable. And I'm like, I'm the most approachable guy ever. Right. You know what I mean? It's not like but anyway. But it's sort of funny to like, it's good. It's a good thing to keep in mind as well, is like people's accomplishments are always going to look huge on social media because they're framing out, speaking, DP, they're framing out most of the story. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're just showing you a frame of what the fuck's going on.
The stills are always going to,
out
of 10 times.
The stills are going to slap.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds better than,
it's so true. Whenever I see the stills, I'm like, God, I gotta make another movie. Like, I'd see the stills, and people would be like, fuck, I'm behind. I'm not, because the stills are always going to look like, slick and shit if they're good. And you're gonna be like, God damn it, I'm not doing, so you gotta just like, sometimes you gotta just be like, dude, like, I'm plugging away, this shit's a marathon, I'm staying ambitious, I'm staying hungry, I'm taking care of myself, but like, things will, if I keep working, like, things will happen when they are supposed to happen.
That being
on
said,
some level.
When the fuck we making something again, man?
Yeah, we're trying to make a movie, man, called The Kid. Ben and I were talking off camera about it. Gabe's going to be involved in it in multiple ways. And it's I'm very excited about The Kid. And so after my AFI pitch event, I think I told you this off camera, Ben. After my AFI pitch event on the 25th, I'm going balls to the wall on for the kid, baby.
Love it.
Because I've been putting it off for too goddamn long.
Can't wait.
It's gonna happen, man. We're gonna start putting that out in the ether.
Let's do it.
It's the kid's gonna happen. The kid is, I can give it like just a little something about it. It's basically Dazed and Confused meets Spring Breakers is the way I describe it. So if Dazed and Confused were shot in the style of Spring Breakers, and in my opinion, this is gonna sound arrogant. I don't think there's another movie, like I haven't seen another movie like it, like The Kid on paper. And Ben once described it. Why am I making this granola bar now? Ben once described it as just like being really weird. I think is what you said, and I'm like, yeah, like it is. It's a fucking weird movie, but it's gonna be so. Every time I read it, I just get excited about it, which is a good sign, right? Like, it just sort of pops off the page to me. And the actors that we already have on board, I think it has the same effect on them. They're like, holy shit, like this is like crackling with some. And for some people, they read it and it doesn't work for them, but just fine. But I know there's an audience for it, and I know the people who like it are gonna really like it, and I really believe in it. And if, with Ben shooting it, it's gonna look orgasmically good. It's going to be ridiculous. I mean, my head sort of explodes
Dale,
thinking about it.
Tell me how the stills are going to look on this film.
The stills, when people see the stills on this, they're going to start throwing tomatoes at me and Ben because they're going to be so mad that they didn't do it first.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
They're going to be furious. You know what I mean? Ben and I won't be able to go. Ben and I will be trying to, like, grab a coffee. People will be like, fuck you, the stills are looking too good. No, I'm kidding. No, it's going to look incredible. Gabe is going to play a role in it. We got Al's going to play a role in it. And then there's a bunch of roles that we're going to remain open for some talented actors, and that's deliberate. And, yeah, man, it's going to be fucking dope. It's going to be dope.
Dope.
Anyway, we'll give the people a little taste of that. Little taste, and then we'll keep it pushing. But we'll keep giving them tastes. But, yeah, man, I'm trying to think of, like, what else about... Like, Ben is just... He's a fucking cool guy, so I'm trying to think of what else we should say about him before we get into bodies.
We don't need to say anything else.
All right, that's that self-deprecation. You knew he was going to say that.
That's probably enough.
Yeah. Ben's like, no, I don't want to... No, Ben, it's just scary. Like, that's a Massachusetts thing. It's just like, you got to start getting too... When people are saying too many good things about you, you start getting scared. You're like, no, I... you know what I mean? Because you'll eventually be outed as, like, the, biggest... In your head, you'll be outed as just a huge... Yeah, you're too hot. You're too big.
Yeah, you gotta have a little bit of that like self-hatred.
Yeah. You gotta have a tad bit.
Mild
just a little bit. It's like a little, it's like a little shot of juice you take every day.
Yeah.
It's like a little self-hatred juice.
Boston dude who's like, all right, settle down, kid.
Right. all right, buddy. You're not that good. All right.
Dale's been increasing that juice, so his head's not getting bigger, but his hair's getting longer.
You motherfucker. Shout out to Dunny. I think I said, but Dunny said, my friend Dunny said to me last night, I think I told you this, but he said, yeah, Dale, for the life you're living, hair looks great. Otherwise, it looks horrible. I said, you motherfucker. The other thing Dunny said to me that I thought was one of the funniest things anyone's ever said to me, he's like, dude, Dale made an entire movie just to tell us he was sad. Which I thought was one of the greatest things. I was like, that is... I said to Dunny last night, I said, like, that is one of the best things anyone's ever said to me ever. Like, that was, like, so goddamn funny. Nah, Dunny's a great guy. Shout out to my boy Dunny, my brother.
We're going to have a Donnie review for every single film you do, just to throw on, like, the poster.
His reviews, one time he said to me, this terrible short film I did in college, and he goes, Dale, that thing sucked. And I was like, dude, I love that I have friends, though, who can just tell me that.
Yes.
Because sometimes you're going to get to a certain point where people are just going to be like, oh, it's all great, and it might suck.
Yeah.
It's like some directors get in their 50s, and everyone's telling them they're the greatest thing ever, and then their movies are sucking pond water, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Denis Villeneuve, what are you doing? Get your head out of your ass.
Yeah. Dude, my wife is, like, such a harsh critic.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if she likes something that I did, I'm like, okay, it's good.
That makes sense to me that Danny, based on like the limited stuff that I know about Danny, that makes sense that she's like a tough critic.
We'll watch something and she'd be like, why the fuck is this happening in it? And I'm like,
right.
Why is that?
No, she's a good...
I'm like, why is that happening?
Unlike my brother, who is like the most volatile critic of all time. Like, he could watch... I have no idea what you Ben has, like, some familiarity with my brother, who was the de facto line producer on Magnolia Flowers, the biggest lunatic. He would call me and be like, what did you just buy on the card? What is this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, calling me about, like, wait, no, you can't get those headphones. What are you doing? Like, and be like, you know what I mean? Like, be like, Aiden, I have to buy, like, snacks. Or be like, tighten up the snacks. You know what I mean? Like, just, like, the biggest... I'm like, I'm never working with you in this capacity ever again. Like, I'll let you do my taxes and shit, but you're not going to do this shit. You're not going to be calling me on the phone about like, you know what I mean? Like, line items.
And to be calling you, reaming you out.
Well, when I'm trying to, like, shoot a scene. Ben remembers that vividly, because Ben would laugh every time I'd get on the phone. Ben would start just laughing his ass off. Because my brother, he knew my brother was on the phone, like, yelling at me. What an asshole. Anyway.
But he has volatile reviews of your films.
No, he likes my films actually a lot. He likes Magnolia Flowers a lot. He liked the short films that I wrote at AFI. I think were his favorite things I've ever done. Not directed by me, which I'm a little insulted, but no, I'm kidding. Worked with two great directors, Naomi Christie on one of the shorts. I still have to show you these shorts. I don't think I've ever shown Ben them either. They're both pretty good. Yeah. Naomi Christie, talented director. Connor DeMitta, also a talented director. I worked with, and we made two different short films. One of them was called Sorry for Sharing. The other one was called, it was about like this teacher at an all-girls Catholic high school who has an affair with another teacher, and then she's trying to teach, it's basically the short film is she's trying to teach her class, she's an ethics teacher, and she's trying to teach her class of like teenage girls about ethics while she's like sort of ruminating about this affair that she had. And so that was Sorry for Sharing, and then directed by Naomi Christie, who's really talented, mainly does music videos, but she's really great. And then that was my brother. I think that's my favorite thing, my brother's favorite thing I've ever done. Like, he's like, dude, that shit is fire. And so, which is interesting. But then if he doesn't, like, there's aspects of Magnolia Flowers that he's like very honest about. But he also likes it. Anyway, my brother's a volatile critic. Like, he likes like Honey Boy, for instance, like the Shia LaBeouf flick. Yeah. Loves that movie. And then I told him to watch Blackbird. Have you seen Blackbird on Apple?
No. Shot by Natalie Kingston, though. Yeah,
really good. Ben, I think you should watch Blackbird. Yeah, it's fire. It's really fire. And he watched Blackbird and goes, this thing sucks. I go, Aiden, did you finish it? He goes, yeah, I've got to finish it. But it's, you know what I mean? So you never know what my brother... Anyway, we gotta get all these people on the pod to give reviews of things. Absolutely, yes. Because it's who knows what they're going to say. Anyway.
Hell yeah. All right, let's do a swap.
We got to reset the camera. We'll be right back with the Movie Addicts podcast. And I think we're going to move into the... dust up. We're going to start talking about bodies. So we'll be right back with the Movie Addicts podcast.
You should just get your brother to call in and do like a 30-second review of every...
I should start calling him during the pod. No, for sure. That's Ben. That's a fucking great idea. So we're back, yeah, Gabe? We're back with the Movie Addicts podcast. Here with Ben Grant. And I think we're going to start. So we watched, all three of us, not together. Gabe and I watched Bodies. We're talking Bodies today.
Word.
Ben saw it. You saw it a day after us. So we saw it on Monday, right? We saw it Monday. I was in a great mood. I had a zillion cups of coffee. I was eating Skittles. I was in a great mood. The trailers... I'm going to just take this out. Oh, shit. I almost fell off my chair, dude.
Goodbye.
The
trailers before the film.
I'm in a great... I was talking my shit before we went into the movie. Totally. You remember, you were a little like, Dale, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And I was like, motherfucker, I'm in a good mood, all right? Leave me alone.
Dale has 6 instead of 5 cups of coffee.
Yeah. So I'm what was I? I was talking some shit about something. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm in a good mood, so this is just to lay in some context. I was in a really good mood going into this movie. I came out of it sort of emotionally devastated. Like, by the time the movie's over.
Same.
But I'm glad I was able to lock in and really be, like, in a good mood for watching this, because it's an intense experience, and it's also, in my opinion, it's a really good movie. I was really taken with it, and we can get into the directors and the writers and the actors and things, and I would like to get into the cinematography, because I think the cinematography in this was fucking... And now that we have Ben here, we have a resource to actually break down some shit. I think it was really interesting. I think it was using... I saw a lot of techniques I hadn't necessarily seen yet. And I don't know if Ben could weigh in on that. Because Ben studies the shit, like, for real, obviously. So Ben would know, like, nah, I've seen that in this or whatever. But,
Stats? Want to hit the...
yeah, let's hit the stats. Let's hit the stats. So, oh my god, I'm, like, leaning over. So, Bodies is directed by Helena Rajan, I believe. I think that's pronounced correctly. It was written by Sarah DeLapp. The screenplay is written by Sarah DeLapp. Kristen Rupinian got a story by credit. It's interesting because on IMDb it has 3.3 thousand ratings total, which is not crazy high. So that's an interesting, like, sort of lower in overall engagement numbers on IMDb.
Okay.
6.7 out of 10.
Which might mean that as much as you like the trailer may have
I've
been
never seen the trailer.
for the film.
Never seen it.
All right.
Which
So,
I'm really glad I never watched it because I think it would have ruined my
might have been
experience.
divisive for people.
Yeah.
Definitely affected my...
When I saw the trailer, I was like, this kind of looks like dog shit.
Yeah,
Okay,
it looks
that's-
like a silly bubblegum horror
We can
film.
talk about
Like,
that, man, because of late I've seen some trailers that I'm like, oh my god, why did you put out this trailer for this movie? Because I'm like, thank god I saw the movie, and I fucking, like, the Bullet Train trailer fucking sucks, and that movie is good.
I actually don't remember the trailer.
I remember it just being like, this could be awful.
It
And I
definitely
see the
didn't
movie,
feel
and the
like
movie's
film.
great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw
I
Bullet
haven't
Train,
seen
but
it yet.
it's really fucking good,
Me
man.
and Dale were sold on it. I think part of it was the fact that we were coming down from a terrible week watching The Gray Man, but then to see like such a
Gray Man is fucking awful.
but
One of the worst
we
movies
just
ever
put
made.
it in one more time. We might slide it into the description again of this podcast 3 weeks later. But Bullet Train,
We will never stop talking about how egregiously bad it is.
Netflix.
Sorry.
Netflix.
Netflix, get your shit together. Stop fucking up.
Thank you.
On this grand of a scale. $200 million for what?
And
That's what the budget was?
wait,
200 million?
Something like that.
wait, and then we watched.
It was higher than The Irishman.
Oh my god.
We watched the
Scorsese, they're like, no, Scorsese, we gotta cap you at 135. Gray Man, we're gonna...
That was the Russo brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's trash.
Like, imagine telling Scorsese, no, we can only cap you here, and then you tell the Russo brothers, no, you
We also
can run
tried
with
doing
this.
the
The greatest
Day Shift.
filmmaker of all time versus two mediocre-ass filmmakers, in my
Well,
opinion.
they've done a lot of stuff. I'm
Like
just.
the
That's a hot take. That's a hot
That's a
take.
hot
People
take.
are gonna be hating on me for that one.
It's all good.
We're talking about, hold on, Marty Scorsese, one of the greatest filmmakers
Sure,
of all time.
and he's been
period.
around in the business for what, 50, 60
The
years
guy's
now?
80 years old. He's making Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, I literally was thinking before I went to bed last night, I was thinking about, like, I was fantasizing about being at a premiere of Killers of the Flower Moon, whether that maybe this will actually come true and I'll actually get a ticket or something. And I imagined Marty Scorsese's 80-year-old ass just walking up and introducing the movie. I was like, that is the most insane thing.
Yeah.
The fact that this guy's alive and making movies on this scale is insane to me.
Yeah.
With, like, the greatest act, like, with Leo DiCaprio, my favorite actor. And I'm just like, holy shit. Anyway.
No, I was just saying.
But you
we watched
cap Marty
Gray
at
Man.
135, but you give the Russo brothers 200.
Exactly, like total misalignment of budgets and priorities. We tried watching Day Shift with Jamie Foxx.
I couldn't watch it.
I don't even know what that is.
What?
It should have been a great film. It's basically a modern vampire slayer film in L.A. with Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx kills it. He's great in terms of action, and as much as I watched
Ben,
the trailer,
don't watch it.
and
It's
I was
so bad.
I was so hyped about the practical effects. They did a
Yeah.
really amazing job with like action sequences and like blood and guts with practicals and not an overabundance of CGI. But we didn't get more than 25 minutes in, and we're
Awful.
like, all the characterization is terrible, all the exposition is terrible. Nothing, like, there's no memorable dialogue. Jamie Foxx is clearly gritting through his teeth trying to perform this
The directing
character.
is awful.
Is it Netflix?
It is
Yeah.
Netflix.
They are just on a cold streak.
Yeah. And, like, here's the thing, right, is we looked at that list with Sam, with stuff they have put out. They put out some good shit. Like, Roma, I really like.
That was a long time ago, though.
That was a long time
That
ago.
was, what, 2016, 2014?
Yeah, and I also got to see that in a theater, which was fucking so rad.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of
Gorgeous
people
film.
didn't get.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Alfonso Cuarón just kicks ass as a director, but yeah, they put out some. Wait, I'm now The Irishman. They put out some good shit, like really high quality shit.
Yeah.
But it's tough to see them put out stuff like Day Shift, where I'm like, dude, like, who is this director? This director is fucking awful. It might be multiple directors. I'm like, do they know how to like cut a scene together? Do they know how to direct actors? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like basic shit. Like these directors, whoever they are, like, but it's just they
Here's
wouldn't
a
make it
curious
to the
thought.
studio level. The
Curious
studio would be
thought.
like, you don't know how to direct something.
Trying to throw them a bone.
Okay.
a lot of television, network television, they just slide in directors, slide them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could argue you're giving them an opportunity to be on set, work with a bigger budget, la-di-da. Do you feel like if that is their approach to some of these movies, that they're testing out directors, do you think they're just not vetting them enough? Or do you think it's a total misalignment of like budget, like we were
It seems
saying?
like they're not vetting the right. I wonder what Ben thinks about this. It seems like they're not vetting the right. Like they're looking at like the stat sheet, so to speak, of the director or directors, and they're not looking at the right metrics or the right like aspects of their body of work. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Something I've heard a lot of from people that work at Netflix too is like they have a very hands-off approach.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
Which sounds great.
Sounds
but,
utopic, right?
But I wonder if that has led to some of these films just being just total messes.
Yes.
Is they don't have enough people up top kind of managing these big studio things, which, you know, sometimes it can go the opposite way with like Warner Brothers, where they have such a heavy hand on it, and it becomes
and it can ruin
terrible,
a movie,
right?
Yes, yes.
But sometimes when you let on like $200 million film and you let the creatives do whatever the hell they want, it could end up. You know, I haven't seen the movie, so it could not be the case. But maybe it is Netflix not managing their creatives enough. But who the hell knows?
Well, I think that's what the point you and I sort of came to with Bullet Train was, okay, Sony clearly had a hand in this, and they like wanted to make sure it was a high quality film they were putting out, but they didn't have too much control over it. They struck that balance, and I think I have heard the same thing about from people who do work in Netflix is like that sort of it's very laissez-faire, but like perhaps too much so. Yeah. Like when you're seeing these movies, like Ben's saying, like you're seeing these movies that you're going, wow, there's some big time disconnect here between concept and execution. And sometimes you just need people with experience to step in and go like, hold on, like let's settle, let's get more structured here. Let's like get more organized here. Let's make sure we're executing this to the best of our ability. Because I don't think clearly it's not like necessarily a budgetary restraint. If they're able to get Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg, whose rate is probably higher now because he's been in actually a bunch of movies at this point. They're able to get Jamie Foxx, Snoop Dogg, Dave Franco. Who am I for overlooking as actors in Day Shift? Now we're talking.
I don't know. We only got 20 minutes in.
Yeah. Anyway, Dave Franco didn't even. I wanted Dave Franco so badly to pop up on screen, and then like we didn't even get to that point. No. Also, the script was awful. I didn't understand what in the first 25 minutes you couldn't set up in 5 minutes, and I just think that's kind of the era we live in. Is like, no, get to this shit faster. People have seen a zillion movies. You don't need to over-explain everything. Which segueing into bodies.
They got to it.
They got to it quick, and not in a way that I found confusing. So I mean, Gabe, what was your overall? What was kind of give me something? Give me like your overall visceral reaction to bodies. Like, what was your experience with
at
the movie?
end of the film? I was sick to my stomach and inspired by the amount of craft that went into it. I think I went in there thinking, all right, here we go, another exhausting attempt to appeal to Gen Zers. It's going to be some weird new bubblegum horror film, and I kind of just like rolling my eyeballs while I walk in there and watch everybody like think Pete Davidson is cute and have all these cute girls on their phones and their neon style. Like, I'm like, all right.
That's the marketing.
That was
right?
the marketing, exactly.
Right.
And then at the end of the film, I tell people this, it's not the same for anybody. Also, like, spoiler alert, I guess is coming soon, right? But you guys see Waves? Have we seen Waves?
I like Waves a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I walked out, different film, different journey, different intention. But at the end of Waves, I had a similar pit in my stomach of, like, devastation.
Yeah. It's a tough movie.
It was, yeah. And so at the end of Bodies, I think it was more for me like, really? This is where we're at with society? This is how we treat one another? This is, like, we need to do something about this. I felt it was a really relevant cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Whereas people could walk away and be like, "Oh, that was hilarious. People died, but like, cool movie, bro." Like,
you could walk away, and the point of it could go right over your head, for
completely
sure.
over your head, which in some ways is another meta narrative of like, "Hey, we're marketing to you, and by the way, you're not even going to notice the point."
Like at all,
You
yeah.
know? At all.
I don't know, Ben. Do you want to weigh in? Like,
Yeah,
what
go
was
ahead,
your
go ahead.
experience with the movie and shit? Like,
Well, I went into it, I mean, because I saw the trailers, and the trailers market it as almost like this
spilled coffee in my shirt.
slack. There you go.
God, fucking damn it! I really didn't do that intentionally. I'm sorry, Ben. I'm sorry.
No, but they market it as like almost like you think it's gonna be like a slasher, like this
Yes.
kind of like generic which don't get me wrong, I love, like I'm a huge horror guy and just I'll
Yeah,
see
you are a big horror
Yeah,
guy, right? Yeah.
I'll see it even if it's garbage. I'll watch it because I just love horror. But yeah, so I went into it thinking it was gonna be just another generic slasher with Pete Davidson in it. Who I mean, I knew he was gonna die in the first like.
Yeah, that was a lock.
minutes, like, yeah.
That was a lock. I was like,
You
Pete
know
Davidson's
he's
not gonna survive
gonna
this whole
survive.
movie.
Yeah,
I
there's
knew
no
it.
way.
I knew that right
They can
away.
only afford him for a few days. That's probably why.
That is actually probably why.
Like, we got 3 days with this motherfucker.
It is unfortunate because I thought he did quite. Sorry, Ben. I thought he did quite well in this movie, and I'm usually very hard on him.
Yeah.
Creatively, because, and I have to say, the things I'm hard on him about are not. I want to give Pete I want to be fair, because after I saw this movie, I was like, nah, this dude can act. I previously did not think he really
King of
could.
Staten Island, you shit on him for.
King Staten Island. That's because Judd Apatow completely fucks that movie up. That movie fucking sucks. It's 2.5 hours long. For what reason, I have no idea. Like, it doesn't move at all. Like, the script is like B-. It's, oh man. And then, like, I feel like the wrong aspects of Pete Davidson's personality are being enhanced, and then all the interesting stuff is being, like, minimized. And I see the guy in interviews, I see Pete Davidson in interviews, I'm like, no, this guy's an interesting guy. And he's a nice guy. And he's genuine and fucking honest. Like, there's a real artist there that you can put in your movie and he can deliver something interesting. And I thought he did in this movie, so I want to give him, like, some props. Like, I actually did think he was quite good while he was in the movie. Of course, He dies pretty quickly, but anyway.
No, he was great. But yeah, I thought it ended up being a very good kind of satire on this generation without it being too mean-spirited. Like, it
was not too mean-spirited.
It wasn't, like, lecturing. It wasn't, like, really trying to shit on this generation too much. Like, I just thought it was a good, fun satire on, the direction that Gen Zers are kind of heading. But at the end of the day, like, I just left the theater being like, that was a fun movie. Like, I
felt a similar way.
Watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something that's gonna stick with me for a long time.
Okay.
But I did just have a really good time.
Okay.
during it.
I did too.
Yeah. It was good. I wasn't in love with it.
Okay. So with that out of the way, I had a lot of fun. I mean, Gabe and I'm glad we watched it together. Watching movies with Gabe is always really interesting because sometimes we're having like a very similar experience, and sometimes we're having a completely different experience.
For sure.
I got the sense we were having a similar experience. Granted, I was like yelling at the screen during the movie.
He literally like
I was like, like literally, and the two women sitting behind us were like, what the fuck is up with this guy? I think they were laughing.
In the audience laughing at Dale laughing,
because I was like, I couldn't believe
that guy. Huh?
Yeah, I was that guy.
No.
Honestly, I think Dale's a great
Fuck
audience
you,
member.
Ben, man. What the hell, man? Yeah, I'm glad we didn't see it together, because Ben and I would have been fist fighting, fisticuffs coming out of the theater.
Shut the fuck up.
All right, because I was having
Dale,
such a
you're
visceral
great
reaction
audience
to
member
it.
because you actually are dialed in.
Yes.
Whereas sometimes probably like me and Ben could be like, just like gotta measure my expectations. You are locked.
Because I was locked into, whenever I watch a movie, first and foremost, I'm locked into the script. So if the script is working, which it was, shout out to these two women who wrote, Sarah and Kristen. I thought this script fucking slapped, and I thought it was doing. All right, I don't know. Ben was like trying to look at the. I thought the script really was quite good and really used dialogue to for story, like used dialogue to like snake the story beats in, and that's really strong writing, and that takes a lot of skill. That's not something a lot of writers are very good at. Like, it's like a lot of writers will try to use dialogue for exposition.
Yeah.
and they'll maybe, if they're good, be able to use it for character development in a way that's not too heavy-handed. But Sarah and Kristen, I thought, were really using dialogue for story, to keep the story moving and tell you about the characters in a way that wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't too heavy-handed.
No.
I think for some people, they're going to come away and say it was too heavy-handed. I didn't really think so, because every line in the movie requires you to think twice about what the line means. Like, for example, when they're starting to become suspicious of Greg, who is probably one of the best characters in the movie.
Yeah.
Greg is awesome. And that actor, what's his name? I'm trying to look at him. Lee Pace, who plays Greg. Holy shit, that guy was great. I mean, like, I was really kind of blown away. I've never seen this guy in anything, I don't think. And man, did he fucking step up to the plate and like deliver. Because like every aspect of his performance felt so true to me. True to the situation, true to like his character, true to, you know what I'm saying? So, I was sort of trying to make a point, but everything, for example, like when they start becoming suspicious of Greg, and I forget which of the characters says to Rachel Sennett's character, we're gonna have to keep, to Alice, like, wait, Greg is Alice's boyfriend, Rachel Sennett's.
Yes.
So,
The glow
right?
stick girl.
Glow stick girl with the podcast.
Yes.
Greg is her boyfriend.
Done.
And she goes, "Do you know anything about Greg?" And all the things she lists are, "Do you know how much money he makes? Do you know ba 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 ba?" And all the things she lists are actually very superficial things.
Yes.
And which tells you about her character. Like, she thinks she's asking something important and profound, but she's asking like the most surface level questions. And then we know Alice is actually extremely Rachel Sennett is extremely self-conscious. And so she's already getting sort of ashamed and embarrassed of like not knowing these things.
Yeah.
But like the things that she's being pressed to know about this guy are also sort of like, they're like almost like a stat sheet for the guy, not like who he is as a human.
Right.
And what she says is like, no, but he's a really good person. Yeah. And that is completely devalued. Like, the idea that he's a good person is completely devalued, because they're like, well, that doesn't matter. He still could have killed someone. And the reason they think he could have killed someone is because they think he's a vet, like a military veteran.
Hilarious.
Which is hilarious. It's brilliant. It's smart. I just fucking love that.
Oh man, you just hit like two things for me. So one thing that I find fascinating about what you just said, but no, really, he's a really good person. I first heard that in the movie. I was like, oh my goodness, this girl's so.
And I had that
fake
reaction.
and
I had that
and
reaction
now I'm
too.
Thinking this is one of the few people in the film who actually had good intuition about people. This is why she wants to sit down and do a podcast and make friends with everybody and talk about them.
Yeah.
And in her case, she met this guy who she could read as like a really like heart-forward, hard-working, self-aware individual. And unfortunately, because of how she is and articulately, because the girls are so distrustful of one another, they completely steamrolled her and got the guy murked. You know?
Yeah. Oh my god, that scene where they confront him in like the gym.
Oh my
Holy
goodness.
shit. That scene had me like pissing my pants. Yeah. Because you can imagine this guy, it felt so real. I don't know what you, like, that scene was the most horrifying scene to me, because it's like, it's why I like the, I know you like The Witch, Ben. Mm-hmm. But it's like Robert Eggers' movie, The Witch, like, where all the horror is really rooted in like a harsh reality. Yeah. And then it's hard. You can tell the characters are grappling with something that's very, very real, and that's what makes it horrific. Yeah. In my opinion, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what really works about for that the performances in that scene, I think is, well, I mean the lighting is really interesting too, but
it totally is. Yeah.
I think when you see the conflict on every single person's face,
right?
Like, because no one knows what the fuck to do. The Greg guy is standing there being like, what the fuck is going on? Are we...
He really doesn't know.
Like, he doesn't know. He thinks they're still playing this game. Every character thinks that he might be the killer, but they're also like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And I think you just see like the indecision on every single character's face.
Yes.
And that's what really makes it intense, plus the way it's being cut and the way that it's being lensed there. It's on this like shaky cam with like a longer lens.
Totally.
So you feel the intensity of the scene, and it just how it just builds and builds and builds, and then once he gets the knife and you have the power shift, it's just like, I think that is probably the best crafted scene.
I agree with you.
That, or I mean, there's one other scene when they're kind of like wrestling for the gun and you can't really see what's going on. That's another really that, or the scene in the basketball court was definitely for me the most intense scenes.
I agree. I agree. I think I would agree with you on the best crafted scene. It's just sort of firing on every cylinder, and I was like, holy shit, this is so intense, so horrifying. Like, because you feel, I think the person you also immediately develop in real time. You're sort of, I think, for the first time, developing actual empathy for Greg in real time, whereas like before, you see Pete Davidson they sort of turn you against Greg. So you're like, wait, is Greg an idiot? And he sort of, you had a different take on this than me. I was so on Pete Davidson, the David character. I was on David's side because David gets pissed, and I'm sort of with David where Greg says that thing, oh, the best defense is a good offense. And David goes, yeah, but what does that mean? And he's like, the best defense is a good offense. And you get the sense that he actually doesn't really know what that expression means. And David takes that opportunity to be like, this guy's fucking stupid. I'm going to make him look stupid in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Which the sort of darker part of me is on David's side and wants to make this guy feel stupid. But then you realize, oh, like maybe he just didn't, you sort of take it out of context. You go, maybe he just didn't know that expression, but he heard someone use it, so he wanted to use it. But he might not be, like, you had a different take on that character. Like, this guy's not necessarily that dumb. I think he's still a little dumb, but that's not the point. The point is that he's a human, and now you're making him feel like shit for like what?
That's a harsh take on him.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. But I think the movie is so effective and the acting is so effective that's where it took me. It's like how Marty Scorsese's movies, like that's why I love Marty Scorsese's movies. They'll take you to like the really dark places and help you examine those parts of yourself. Which that part had me like examining like a pretty aggressive part of myself where I'm sort of aligned with David at first, and I'm like, fuck this guy. He's. You know what I mean? And then it forces you to go, wait a minute.
What does that say about?
Yeah, what does that say about me?
Yeah,
that's great art.
This is what I was getting at with the cautionary tale earlier. Is like the mirror. What is this film saying about me and what characters I'm siding with? The fact that like also Pete Davidson, just as we're saying, Greg is just a human, and we can go on about like why they really. Set
and by the way, we find out Greg's he actually probably is just a good guy.
Absolutely.
He's not like some fucked up.
Absolutely.
Like he's not. But the movie aligns you with all these kids who are like, no, he's the 35-year-old white guy. He's bad, and it's like, dude, whoa, like let's take a fucking step back.
For sure,
like the guy might. I think the guy's just a veterinarian who's like handsome. Like I don't know. That might be it. You know what I mean?
Well, you account for the fact that like all the girls know is that first of all, they all have their own political perspectives on things.
Yeah.
They all come from like this weird rich privilege thing.
Very much, which I thought was an interesting element.
I thought it was really interesting because it shows how much of a bubble they live in.
Yes,
and maybe
I think that's why it's
how
important.
tapped they are, how tapped into like social media and like virtue signaling and labeling and condensing their opinions and perspectives on the world, which I think is relevant not just to Gen Zers but to everybody.
I think it also to me establishes. I wonder what because Ben would definitely remember that big sweeping extreme wide of the mansion before they go in, which is sort of a classic horror thing, like The Shining, and it's sort of like it's such a classic horror movie shot of like here's the setting where it's all gonna go down, it's all gonna get fucked up.
Right.
But
they do so much to set up who is in and who is not in.
Yes.
This random guy who's got a map with a circle around the place. This guy who nobody's known for longer than 2 weeks.
Also,
he's the oldest in the group.
Yes.
He's white. He's a military guy. Like all these things are setting up the fact that he's just you can't trust him.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
with that scene though, it was so interesting because like my perspective on that scene you're talking about is like the exact opposite because I'm empathizing so much with this Greg character. As when he says that line, because I look at it as like, okay, so many people have been in that situation where they're
you
like,
say something
with a group of friends that they're the outsider, they don't know everyone. Like I've gone to like parties before where like my wife has brought me and I don't know anyone there,
Totally.
and then you just like he's just saying something to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And then
now I feel bad, but that's what the movie's doing. Now I feel like, oh shit.
Just like, I think he's just like this nice guy who's just trying to be part of the gang and
totally
contribute to the conversation.
Totally.
And then you have this Pete Davidson character just be a huge douchebag.
Being a complete dick.
Being a complete comment that probably didn't he was just saying something. Yeah, it was a stupid comment, but like he was just trying to participate in the conversation.
Yeah, man.
So I don't know how that makes you feel about yourself.
No, but that's why I like the movie, because it made me self-examine. It's the movies those are the movies I dig, is the ones that make me go, oh fuck, there is that kind of fucked up part of you that like aligns with sort of something that's not the best element. You know what I mean? Like I was with Pete Davidson because and the movie is so clever in that way, because the movie I felt like the director Helena was crafting sequences at the top that make you skeptical of Greg visually.
Totally.
He's sort of the way they framed him
He's the one who can hold
in
his
certain
breath
scenes.
the longest.
He's sort of lingering in the back,
Yeah,
but I think it's really just because he's awkward. It's like Ben's saying.
Right.
It's really because he feels uncomfortable and he wants so badly to belong.
He also knows he's the oldest guy dating a girl like 10 years.
I know, and he's probably and that's why the writing's so smart. It doesn't over-explain anything, and then the directing is sort of taking the script and going, how can I put that in the visual storytelling?
Yes.
Smart shit, man. It's good. It's really great filmmaking. And like the thing that turned me against Greg initially, and then obviously like I really did.
So
We'll be right back with the Movie Addicts podcast. We got to do a camera reset. We'll be right back. And we're back with the Movie Addicts podcast. Ben's favorite part of the process.
Let's go.
The thing that turned me against Greg, and this is so dumb, but I love that the movie is operating in this way where it's so revealing of shit. Is he did the sword thing with the champagne bottle, and I was like, this douchebag.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? I was like, this fucking guy. Because it reminded me of like certain people at USC, for instance. And I'm like, you're just being a douche. Like, don't do the sword with the champagne. You know what I mean? Like, we get it. Like,
you're cool.
You're at a cool house. You're cool. Whatever.
Right.
Like, go fuck yourself. So that's where it turned me against them. And then when shit starts to get real, you're like, oh fuck. Now you feel anxious about like the way you turned against him so quickly. Just like, wait a minute. It's not like, let's not take it to like some like more intense place. It doesn't really need to go there. There's no reason for it to go there.
I never thought about this, but my mind just jumped to Lord of the Flies.
It totally is Lord of the Flies.
This
It totally is
film
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies on principle that you take people who, in any other circumstance, would be the most, at the very least, civilized. You know, you can't establish in the film that everybody's friends and we treat each other a certain way because like we're trying not. We're just. There's a lot of like fakeness happening.
It's all about public image. Right?
It's all about public image.
All
Thank
about
you.
public
And
image.
you
Take
don't.
it away, right?
Yeah, you don't want to break the public image.
Yeah.
But as soon as you take it away, suddenly people get desperate. They get insecure, and they're going to start behaving in a manner that requires survival.
Yeah. And that's not to say that Greg isn't concerned about his public image, because I think maybe he is on some level, which is like goes into, maybe you disagree with me.
Well,
I did.
He's just really
the face mask. So he definitely
yes,
is. Right?
totally. Yeah, right. He's right, but you interpreted that a different way. You interpreted that the face mask thing.
But to be fair,
way.
he didn't do the face mask. At least from my understanding, again, we can always read into people's motivations. He said, at least, he wasn't doing the face mask to like treat his pores. He was doing it because it helps him relax.
He did say that.
And he was
And
very
you get the
stressed
sense
out from the storm, from the darkness.
He's also stressed out from hanging out with these fucking psychotic kids. That's what I realized.
And
I was
the
like, oh my
fact
god,
that
he's scared of these kids.
and
I would
Pete-
be scared of him.
You got to remember his perspective. Pete Davidson punched him in the face,
Oh my god.
made fun of him.
Pete Davidson does a great job playing an absolute dick. Complete dick. Which I loved. Anyway, sorry.
And my heart goes out in other ways, like just to flip the coin. My heart does go out to Pete Davidson on principle that he's the one with like the house, the money, the party supplies, the resources.
They're taking advantage of him.
And
on
they're
some
taking
level.
advantage of him. And by the end of the film, spoiler alert, get your ass ready, when he accidentally kills himself, it's all just because he wanted to do what the cool guy did. He was so insecure that he was trying to replicate a really cool party trick.
So crazy.
It's so sad. But that's like...
Did you see that coming, by the way, that he had killed himself? Did that occur to you when you first... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Gabe.
go for it.
No. I'd say halfway through the film, you start to realize there's no killer. At least for me, like.
Okay.
I'd say probably halfway through the film, I was like, okay, there's not this killer out there. At least it wasn't reading like that. And I think honestly, the way that they lit it also, to me, made it sound like there wasn't some guy working around in there. I mean,
totally.
And yeah, I'd
Totally.
say halfway through. I didn't realize how he died until they revealed it, and then they
Yeah.
showed everyone in the theater.
It occurred to me when I saw him, the way he
At the
stumbled
window,
and hit the window.
yeah.
I was like, I feel like he just like a tree branch hit him or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that occurred to me, and then I forgot about it, which I thought was very. I thought that was just the film doing its job.
Exactly. Yeah, Dale mentioned that at the end
go,
of the
"Wait a
film.
minute."
He's like, did you? And for me, I was like, did you do something stupid with the sword? And then
Yeah, and
immediately,
it's what happened,
and
dude.
immediately the girls are like freaked out. They think there's a murderer, and you're like on for the ride because what's the alternative? He killed himself with a sword, and it's just like that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
How could that be
bonkers.
possible?
You also get the sense from these characters that they this is getting a little more abstract, a little
Go
like
on,
more.
go on.
You get the sense from these characters that they almost think they're living in a movie as it is, and they sort of are, and that's why Greg
Not
circles
sort of are. They totally are.
totally are.
We live in.
because
So,
I want to. Can I finish my point? So
Yeah,
that you
go,
can.
go, go, go.
So, Greg circling the house on the map. I was thinking about that. I was like, they set up that this house is in the middle of. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's not that much access to shit once you get there, and so Greg's probably like, just in case something goes wrong or like me trying to find it, let me like circle it. And he's actually being like, he's having like forethought and actually like being smart in doing that. And then they interpret it almost immediately as like, it means he came here to kill us, which is a crazy thing to leap to. Like leaping from
Except
he was
for the
trying
fact-
to find the house to he is trying to kill all of us is crazy, but it feels real in
Based
a weird
on the
way.
information they have,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
somebody's dead, their throat is slit, and now we're alone in a house and it's dark and scary.
Yes.
You know, but in terms of the living in a movie, that's a great point because I think we all need to like remember that in many ways. And maybe we're not tapped into this because we're excited about storytelling from a craft perspective because maybe we're not as wrapped up in social media as other people are. But like last night, I was serving at a table and somebody mentioned like, hey, did you see this crazy TikTok video? It was like, it came out the other day. It was about this little boy talking about how he watches porn or something like that. And I'm like,
I can't do TikTok.
I'm just gonna pick
I'm
up
so
the
out on
margarita
TikTok.
and
I
I'm
can't
gonna
do it.
walk away. But that mild observation, I'm like, these people are older than me, and they're talking about TikTok, and it opened my mind up to like, there's a lot of people in society constantly consuming, but moreover, to my point, constantly filming one another. We're all in a movie all the time, trying to get
Totally.
the shot,
Yeah, totally.
trying to like get
Shout out to Nope.
Shout out to Nope, exactly.
Have you seen Nope?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
it's like a totally
yeah,
different
yeah.
road to go down, but
But I really do feel like people they have a hard time separating reality because we're constantly observing one another
Yeah.
and feeling like we're in a movie.
it is funny though. That idea is totally, speaking of Nope, it's just in the zeitgeist right now. It feels like this idea of everything being a spectacle, you needing to document every aspect of your life. Needing to not only, but more than that, this movie's getting into something a lot seedier, a lot darker, which is like using the tools we have at our disposal to document things to make people feel ashamed and to fuck with people and to assert our dominance over people, convey that we're more woke or more socially aware or more politically correct than other people, so as to gain more social currency.
Yeah.
And that it's interesting. Like that does feel like Jordan Peele's not really getting into that in Nope, but this movie's really getting into the nitty gritty of what does that mean coming from the perspective of the generation that grew up with that. You know so I think it's sort of a different perspective on that. But that idea is in the zeitgeist of like, what are the limits? What should be the limits to making everything? Documenting everything, like what should be like, where does the humanity come in, you know what I mean, or where should it come in?
Yeah.
You know, anyway.
Ben, did you have something to say? I was sensing, I wasn't too sure.
Lost it.
I was gonna say on that note, what are the limits to labeling everything?
And
You
these
were
characters are obsessed with labeling.
You were
shit.
talking
Obsessed.
about how the script does such a great job telling the story, telling what the audience needs to know through purely dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because, in terms of like, I guess, where we are politically, where we are in terms of like being in, I don't know if this is like a buzzword or whatever, but run with me for a second, like this late stage capitalism kind of thing. Everybody is a fan of something. Everybody's consuming something. Everybody feels they need to take a side and have an opinion on everything.
True.
Because we're constantly overexposed. And this film, I think, does a really great job of being like, she's trying to find herself through being a podcast girl, and she's trying to find herself through like her relationship, and she's trying to find herself with like an older guy, and he's trying to find himself with his money. And everybody is using something to find themselves, and they're trying to portray an image, and they're also trying to collect data on who they think everybody else is. And they're all in competition.
Rather than,
with
and
each
also
other.
they're not also
they're all in competition.
They set
with
up very
each other.
quickly. They're not real friends.
It's
No, like they're awful to each other. Yeah.
Did you feel like this film had a point of view from one of the characters, like that the blonde?
Oh, interesting question.
It felt like
It's a great
at
question.
the beginning, it was from the point of view of this. I don't remember her name. The girl from
B.
Borat.
B.
blonde?
Yes. Yes. Played by. Hold on. Fuck. Keep going, Ben. Keep going.
And then it feels like as we get into the real shit of things, that point of view kind of leaves a little bit when they start shifting.
I have a thought on that.
The film does a really good job kind of shifting who they think the killer might be, and they have these little like hints coming in. And there's one moment it feels like maybe in the fireplace where that point of view of this character kind of shifts away once we start to maybe suspect her a little bit. And they do a good job of even leaving some hints up to it, like when she's in the car and she leaves the lights on in the car, and the first thing I thought was like, oh, that battery's gonna die, because she, if you know what shot I'm talking about, like when she's putting the makeup on, she has the light on, she leaves. And then
that occurred to me too. I was like, no.
That was a good setup. Good setup.
And then the perspective, to me, it felt like it shifted away from her once they started accusing her, and then it kind of ends back from her point of view.
I felt like at the very end, I would agree with you up until the very, very end of the movie, where I said this to Gabe. I felt like, this is going to sound pretentious. I don't think the movie's trying to be pretentious, but at the very end, I felt like the main character I realized the main character was kind of just like the truth. Like the truth. At the end, that's what the phone represents. They're kind of fighting over the phone, and I'm like, what the phone represents is the truth about what just happened. And by the end, I didn't care so much about B surviving. I cared more about the phone surviving and us realizing what's on the phone, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Because what's ever on the phone, which is ultimately like the TikTok,
Sure.
and the text message thing is just a MacGuffin, I think.
Well, there's two separate things. She's
yeah.
trying to get Sophie's phone
Yeah.
to find out if she was cheating on her.
Yeah.
And then through that little fight, they inadvertently find Pete Davidson's phone.
And so I agree with you, Ben. I felt like it was pretty rooted in B's point of view. But then I sort of, at the very end, I felt like it was intentionally losing her point of view so that we can focus on what really matters, which is the truth about what happened at this house. Like the awful things that happened and why they happened. Rather than it just being... Because B, like, also fucking kills Greg.
Yes.
Like, B does not come out with her hands clean. You know what I mean? In this...
Sure. I do feel, though, I feel that B is kind of like the perspective, because in some ways, B is not the everyman character, but she's not somebody who's plugged into the culture in the same way the kids are. She does not come from money, and she does not have the same education as these girls. And I don't mean she's more or less educated. What I mean is these girls give me like private school vibes, and B clearly does not.
And she says that, and that's also, it's really, oh god, that part broke my heart, where she's sort of trying to actually be vulnerable with them. And which character is I'm trying to remember? I think it was Amanda Stenberg who plays Sophie. It was Sophie, right?
Yeah.
Sophie says to her, like, that's fucking bullshit. Is that who I'm? Hold on. No, not
Jordan says that.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Mahala Harold is her name.
Okay.
Yeah. Jordan is like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Your mom has borderline personality. Who gives a shit? Whatever. Completely, like, doesn't even take a chance, like a sec to like take in what B just said, which is like a bunch of shit. Like, hey, my life's kind of fucked up right now. Like, she's trying to be vulnerable, and then by trying to be vulnerable, she just invites more.
Right.
Like vitriol. It's kind of
think
crazy,
that's
right?
what's tough about this. Again, this is where like I feel so like at the end of the film so like weighed down by like what world am I living in right now? Because if that's where we're at in society, that the character I'm most supposed to identify in the film, the person who I'm not perfect, sometimes I do lie, but it's just because I'm trying to protect the ones I love and find a new way. If finally sharing my truth is met with this, then why do I even want to be a part of this?
I think that's... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a thought on that, Ben, or no? Yeah, I mean, I just think it's... Yeah, I think by the end, that's why I think by the end, to sort of circle back to Ben's really great question, like, by the end, it's like, you don't... That's why I think the very end of the movie isn't really about B. And I think that, I really do think that's really intentional, because it really needs to be about... It becomes about the truth staying alive, you know, because we need to know what the truth is so that we can understand, like, the full picture. This isn't... That's what I thought was really interesting about the script, is, like, the script is not really about one character, and that oftentimes doesn't really work in movies if the script is too free-floating. What?
Ensemble-y?
If it's too... Like, so many ensemble movies don't work, in my opinion. There's some great ones that do work, but they're, you know, like, sometimes that's because they're, like, led by just really talented people, or anyway, it doesn't matter. But in this film, I think this ensemble, I think it totally works, in my opinion. I think there were very few things that I would go, you could throw that out. Also, this thing's tight as shit. This thing's a 94-minute movie. Yeah. And by the way, it felt long enough. Yeah. I don't know if you felt that way. It felt long enough. It didn't feel like it needed to go on any longer.
I do. My one complaint was, and you guys said you liked it, I wish there was a little more setup before the actual killing started happening. It felt like it just got into it a little too fast. And for me, it could have used another 15 minutes of just character development.
You know what, Ben? Now that you say that, that did occur to me, because I was sort of enjoying hanging out with the characters at first, before you realize that they're fucking nuts. Except for Greg, I guess. Greg is Greg the only guy who isn't fucking nuts? Or is that not even fair?
I'm willing to say, yeah, that's how I feel.
Greg's just like...
Here's the thing.
That's what I realized by the end. Greg is the only one of completely pure heart. I really don't think he comes in with any agenda.
Well, okay, so this is where, like, my mind's, like, branching off into a million directions. On the one hand, Greg may not come in with any agenda. Greg may be a little bit removed from, like, these girls, just from, like, a generational standpoint. And
totally
blah,
from
blah,
a generational standpoint.
But some people would argue that a guy trying to date a girl 10 to 15 years younger than him might be ill-intended as well, you know? I'm not trying to put judgment on that, because who knows, maybe my ass when I'm 35 will be dating a 25-year-old if I'm not as lucky as Ben here to find my wife in my 20s.
Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Ben being married.
Boy. But that said, like, people could spin it that way, but I don't really want to place that judgment, because, again, that's falling into the trap of labels. That's a label. In terms of, like, Ben...
hey, coming full circle, baby.
Trying, man.
I
think Greg, in some ways, died just because he was an outsider.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
It does suck. It's brutal. I mean, I feel like Ben could speak more to this. Is that a horror movie trope? That's kind of a horror movie trope, right? The outsider meeting a swift death, or is that not so much?
I would say a lot of times it's almost the opposite. Well, not even necessarily the outsider, but I feel like with tropes, it's always the quiet, nicest, most well-intended person is generally our protagonist. If you look at, like, the more stereotypical slasher films, and she's always the one, and it's always like this young, empathetic girl, right?
Right.
Which
Totally.
could be B in some ways.
Yes, it could be B. Except, you know, not as much, because B is the first person to really kill someone, and she's a liar and all that stuff. She's a murderer and a liar.
I could not get over that she just fucking smacked
with
Greg's
a
ass
kettlebell. Like, holy.
And then she's like, "I did it to protect you," and you're like, "I was like, I buy that, but holy fuck!" Yeah. Like, you fucking, like, violently murdered Craig. Violently murdered him.
I didn't feel like any of those characters were gonna take it to that level in that moment, and then she comes out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And takes him out. So, yeah, you can empathize with her at the beginning. I think once that happens, I lose a little bit of my empathy towards her, because also in that scene, at least for me, I'm rooting for Greg a little bit because you have all these
You just want Greg to
crazy
survive.
motherfuckers, around him, and like, you know. So, yeah, I'd say generally in horror, you have the quieter, more outsider type of character is the one who makes it all the way through. And that's the one you're rooting for. So I mean, R.I.P. Greg.
Rest in peace,
that's just not that's just not what happened in this scenario.
Shout out to Lee Pace again, the actor who I really just think was like so killer in this movie. Like the scene where like I think
in terms of
his performance in the scene in the gym is incredible to me. Yeah. Because it's completely rooted in the circumstances.
Yeah.
I completely buy because it's. I don't see someone. I'm not watching an actor try to root themselves in the reality of okay. I actually don't know what's going on. There's people here who are younger than me pointing knives at me. He's not trying. You don't see an actor trying to deliver that. You see the actor like living. He's like living in those circumstances. And it's so real. You can see it on his face. You can see it in his body. It feels like true to the character. It's just it's checking all the boxes for me. It's great shit.
Yeah, you feel that shift. But I feel like everyone has been in a situation where they are in real time. You realize, okay, this isn't a joke anymore. Like something serious is happening. And you just completely see that on his face and his performance. As he goes from are we still playing this game, and he does like the wolf call. Right, like, which is intense. Also, when he does that, right? That's also creepy.
I forgot about that, Ben.
Yeah. And then you see that shift to being like, oh shit, like we're not.
Yeah, he was trying to be silly. He was trying to like just.
But instead, it comes off from their perspective. It comes off as like deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
I would be curious to hear. Like, I should have like asked my wife about it as like a woman in that situation with this massive guy around, and you think this guy might be killing people, acting like almost kind of like a maniac because he's joking around and you're all panicked. Like, I could see almost taking a little bit from their perspective, like seeing this like 6'4" beefcake of a man
who they think is by the way they think is some skilled veteran guy,
right?
Not to mention
not a veterinarian like he really is. It's a good point though, Ben. It's a good point.
Girls versus this one guy who the only other guy who they can trust is dead.
David. He's
so
dead.
now it's like,
which, by the way,
what do we do?
I think what Ben's saying is just another layer of nuance that I think was baked into the script.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's why the script to me kicks so much ass because it has so many layers that you have to peel back. Because I agree, like from their perspective, it's a bunch of young women against like kind of matched up against this guy who ends up taking a knife from them, and now he has a weapon and he's like, all right. Let's like chill out. Let's set the weapons down. But then you don't know if he's actually going to set it down. And then there also, as an audience member in that moment, you're sort of thinking like, huh, shit. I mean, he might have killed David. Like he was pissed at David because David made him feel like shit. So maybe
and he holds that knife real professionally.
Yeah.
He picks it up. You're like, you totally buy the vet thing. Like,
totally.
Just by the way he picks up the knife and is holding it, and he's like, ready to go.
Totally. And I thought the directing in that scene is so smart for that reason. Clearly they thought through every beat, not just like the
there's
beats.
Chess happening. Like you don't know who to side with at all times.
No. And it was, to me, I was like, cool, man. I was on the edge of my goddamn seat.
Even the moments after where it's a thought of like, wait, B, you just killed him, and Jordan's like, he was a vet, and then
he was a veterinarian,
right? And it's just
I think
like,
Alice says he was a veterinarian.
The constant shift of like perspective and reality in terms of Dale, you saying like the truth being the main character. Truth is constantly evading everybody. Constantly. Because of their own masks and perspectives that they project on the world.
It's yeah, I mean, oh man.
But what would you do in that situation? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't change the fact that
I wouldn't get the knives out. I don't know if I'd get the knives out.
Yeah?
How can I say that, though?
You're in a huge house.
I know. How can I say that?
The one
I can't
person
say that.
who
That's
owns
what makes
the
it
house
nuanced.
is dead. And, like...
Because I get spooked, like, if I hear, like, a raccoon outside at night, outside this house, I'm like... You know what I mean? I'm like, well, how can I say if I thought someone was in the house...
I'm grabbing
I'm grabbing a knife.
Yeah,
but that's the thing is, that's what makes it a nuanced script and a nuanced situation is, like, fuck, like, you can't really we're sitting back here and we're able to like judge the characters to a certain extent.
Right.
But what makes the movie really nuanced is that then you go, yeah, but then what would I do? You know what I mean?
For sure.
Because it's like I identify with David when he's making fun of Greg on some level, which is maybe a little fucked up. But then I put myself in Greg's shoes. And I'm like, shit, well, if someone did that to me, I'd be so embarrassed. I'd be like, what the fuck? Especially if I didn't really know these people that well.
Yeah.
I'd be like so mortified.
Yeah.
And now this guy, and also there's a power dynamic there with David. Like, this is his house. He's the rich kid. You're the fucking old guy. I'm gonna like fuck with you real quick. You know what I mean?
And the crazy
there's
thing
so
is,
many in every situation in the script. I felt like there was
Right.
wow. I'm flipping on the nuances are being woven in, and then there's nuances I can't even. The movie's going too fast the movie's going so fast that there are some nuances that I'm gonna have to think about later. I'm gonna have to rewatch it in order to fully get them. But yeah.
Yeah, throughout the film, I'm really thinking on this. For me personally, I know I keep like pushing it, but it's really resonates with me. Is this whole, especially from like like I'll go back to it, the cultural, the political climate. The film sits in a very us versus them mentality, and constantly you feel like one of us, and constantly you feel like one of them. Like David literally goes from, this party's kind of fun to like, oh, I got a chance to like make this old guy look bad, and suddenly Greg leaves, and what happens next? The girls turn on his ass and kick him out of the game. And so remember, he says fuck this shit, breaks the stuff on the mantle, and he leaves. And what he thought what was going to make him look like the king of the roost suddenly turns on himself. You
Totally.
know?
David's a really complex character. I felt like all the characters in this are so complex. That's why you almost have to like move through every single one of them and to talk about them.
For sure.
David, I thought was interesting because I'm remembering that there was some element with David where why is he so insecure? He's insecure about something related to. Is it Emma?
Okay, so
is Emma his girlfriend?
Emma's his girlfriend. The night before, Mike admitted that he loved Emma.
Yes, and they don't explain that until later, like midway through the movie. It felt like at maybe like the 45-minute mark or something.
Sure.
But that's playing into. We don't know until later that that's playing into David's behavior. But David, so we're also getting the sense. Sorry, I don't mean to be like hogging the.
Keep going.
We're also getting the sense that we're meeting David on like a bad day. Like we're not meeting David on his best day. To his credit,
everything is bothering him.
Yes, he's like, fuck, now I have to. But he probably also said to these people, there's a lot of storytelling you could do about like what is going into this situation. He probably told all these people like, yeah, you can come over to my house. And then this thing happens where they're doing mushrooms and this guy who's in his house is like, I'm in love with your girlfriend. And then he's like, okay, like, do I just tell everyone to leave because I'm bothered by this? But then he can't because then he'll look like super lame.
Yeah.
How do you get that black eye again? He had like a black eye, too,
got,
right? And
Yes. Why? It's a good
it
good
must have been
callback.
That the Mike who liked Emma, I guess Mike punched him in the eye for some reason.
I thought there was some. Wait a minute. He says at some point he explains why he got it, and does he lie about it or is he telling the truth? I can't remember.
I think he's telling
and what does he say?
But he likes that he has the black eye too.
He thinks.
Do you think he actually likes it, or do you think he's
trying
saying,
to convince himself at
yeah.
least, you know?
Yeah, I think he's trying. Well, I think for that day he's kind of coming off as the tough guy asshole.
Right.
And, like I just think that's adding to that character or how he's feeling that day.
Yeah.
So.
I thought honestly, one of the characters in this, now that I'm thinking about it, that's a little on the weaker side is the Emma character.
Why?
David's girl. I don't remember a ton about her, to be honest. And maybe that's just my personal shit coming into it, but I don't remember like what were Emma's like, what was her like defining. All right, we'll be right back with the movie addicts. I gotta pee so bad, so I'm gonna go. Okay, all right, let's take a break then. I'm gonna keep the. Yeah, take one. 10-1. All right. All right.
Just keep the other one.
My shoulder.
Where am I going?
Do you want to show him your bathroom?
I think you guys should leave in the 5-minute break.
We did last time. We actually did.
Yeah, we were about to go on our pitches and then we're like,
Yeah, man. Oh shit. We still speeding? Oh yeah.
Talking about bodies.
Talking about bodies. I kind of want to get into.
We were really talking about that gym scene and how you can't trust anyone.
Yeah, great. I mean, really.
Oh, and then we were talking about Pete Davidson.
Yeah.
In the living room and how. Oh, you know what we were talking about?
Shit.
Emma. We didn't really get Emma.
Yeah, what about her character was memorable? I don't remember her as a character that well.
I remember that she was Pete Davidson's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that Mike loved her. And that she was the actor in the group.
Okay.
Always fake with the crying. She did so good in Hedda Gabler last year. Everyone was bombing on her for that high school play or something like that.
I got the sense that she was actually... Sorry, keep going, Gabe. Keep going about what you remember.
Those are kind of just the big things that stood out to me.
What do you remember about her?
She was the first person when our main character showed up. She was like, what the fuck is she doing here? So off the bat, she came off across as the biggest asshole at first. That was the only thing that I that really stuck with me. When they popped out of the pool, she was like, "What is she doing?"
Totally.
Then after that, to me, she was definitely the least memorable character. Just from a personality wise.
I have a theory about that. Is that I feel like she's maybe one of the most normal of the younger character, the most quote unquote normal that's the kind of the vibe I got, which is why she doesn't stand out so much, is because even her just saying, that's interesting you remember her saying oh, why is she here? That feels at least honest. Mm-hmm. Whereas all these characters are so bent on being dishonest. So do you think she's at least being honest?
Do you think she just wears her emotions on her sleeves?
A little bit, yeah. That's kind of now what I'm remembering about her.
It's because she feels a lot.
Yeah,
and
it's genuine. It's not. She's not making it up or pretending or.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other characters in this movie are pretending, are putting on their emotions, which is strange.
They're acting way more than the actors.
Yeah, right.
Really,
which is ironic. Yeah. I think intentionally ironic. But I had the sense that Emma was supposed to be this. Yeah, she's supposed to be a character in the mix that's. Yeah, just a little more grounded than some of the other characters.
That's
I don't know.
That's sad because the way Emma goes is by falling down the stairs. And the reason she falls down the stairs is because she was under the influence of, what was it?
Oh, right. She has she does drugs at one point, something.
Yeah, Sophie gives her drugs.
Yeah.
And I guess reframing that right now, I'm like, man, this poor girl feels so much that to get away from her feelings,
she does.
She's trying to take. I forget what it is. They're little strips. Was it acid or was it? It wasn't.
She put them on her tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
probably acid. Yeah.
Yeah. At least that's what I thought. And so it was just kind of like. It's sad that that's the way she goes. Is she was just trying to get away from her own feelings. Everyone's making her feel bad for all the way she expresses herself, and so she's gonna numb it, and she dies from falling. It's heartbreaking. Everybody dies in a very heartbreaking way. And that's, again,
so brutal.
That's part of the whole, feeling I had with Waves in terms of, pit of my stomach. My heart really breaks for all these people who just want to be seen and heard and be part of a friend group.
Yeah.
And all of them are just...
Yeah, it's terrible.
Waves is gorgeous.
Inaccessible.
I love Waves.
It's shot so well.
It's also one of my favorite, Kelvin Harrison Jr., one of my favorite actors.
I don't know if I could watch that film again.
Trey Schultz.
Drew Daniels.
Shot by Drew Daniels. Looks gorgeous. Trey Schultz, I think his directing is really interesting. And you really like It Comes at Night, right? Which is his other flick.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen, actually.
It's one of those films that, depending who you talk to, some people fucking hate it.
Okay.
Because it
we should watch that game.
It got marketed like a horror film, and it's not a horror film.
Okay. What would you describe it as?
A psychological thriller, maybe. It's slow. It's definitely slow. It's very much is someone trying to get into this house? Is there someone out there? It's very much just playing on the isolation aspects and stuff like that.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's also shot by Drew Daniels.
Okay.
Yeah, the cinematography is incredible because there's not a lot of dialogue in it.
Okay.
And a lot of the story is just told through the camera work.
Okay.
And the lighting. But it's definitely worth watching.
Okay. Yeah. I really like in Waves. I like Drew Daniels also shot Waves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I like the Trey Schultz Drew Daniels combo there is really nice in terms of the visual storytelling.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really strong. Trey Schultz is like also a pretty young dude, so I imagine he's at the kind of the tip of his career here. But like, there's a lot of like great cinematography and synthesis between the cinematography, script, and directing that comes together into like just really nice, really crisp, really like modern visual storytelling that I just find really effective. Anyway, that just like might sound kind of vague, but that's just kind of trait. Like that's why I like Waves so much. But anyway, yeah, man. Anyway, back to
Bodies.
bodies.
Should we talk about the cinematography a little bit?
I
Yes,
want you to talk
please.
about.
Yeah,
please.
So-
What did you just give us? Give us a breakdown, and then we'll go from there.
Wait, real quick. I don't want to cut you off. For the audience, might sound kind of elementary. Can you break down the difference between directing photography versus the cinematography?
There is no difference.
There is no difference.
It's this, the cinematographer, I'd say, is just a more formal name of a DP.
Okay.
A DP does the active cinematography, but I mean, there's literally no difference.
Okay.
It's one and the same. It's, I guess whatever you prefer.
Sweet.
But yeah, I've never. Some people might try and say there's a difference, but any big person you ask, they're like, it's just
Right.
the same thing. But what I wanted to ask, because I'm sure you guys picked it up, so they did like a really bold choice with their lighting once the shit hits the fan, and
Yeah.
I'm curious if you guys picked up on made it really, which I'm assuming was mostly a narrative decision, but it also I bet helped a lot with the budget and how they shot this. But did you notice how they lit those night scenes?
We're talking beyond like the phones on the ground and stuff like
Well,
that.
I gotta think about this shit.
No, so yeah, it was
With like
basically
the exit signs and stuff like that.
the exit sign. So the whole night stuff, at least to me, it looked like it was just practical lights. It was all practical lighting, which is a really bold decision to do.
So when you say practical, we're just talking bulbs and.
Practical means anything that you see on screen is what is lighting the source.
Totally.
Interesting.
Practical just means the light source that's on the screen, but
phone lights,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. So there's nothing up on a stand behind the camera.
no, at least that's not what it looked like. Because a lot of times what you'll do is like you'll have these practical lights, like lamps or flashlights, and then you supplement that with your own lighting sources, and you have these light sources on screen as the motivation behind your lights. But what it looked like on this was there was no other lighting other than what we were seeing on screen. Like they had the exit signs and those lights that obviously I think they put in their own bigger, stronger sources, like for the red flashing and stuff like that. And the headlamps, the glow sticks, the phones, like that was the only thing lighting them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised maybe they had like a bounce guard behind camera or maybe like something right on the camera for the handheld, but it was a really bold decision, and I'm curious if you guys liked the way it looked, because personally it didn't work super well for me. I get what they were trying to do. I think it was an interesting narrative choice where it's like these people are so revolved around their phones, and their phones are their lives and all this stuff, and their phones are the only things illuminating them and helping them get through this place. But one thing that I like about horror, and you mentioned Nope, and Nope does something really good. Like the best parts of Nope, I think, is when the camera's in the sky and your
shot by
eyes,
Hoyt Van Hoytema, the goat.
one of the goats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the camera's in the sky and your eye is searching the frame.
Yeah.
Like,
We
it's
talked about this on the
constantly
Nope
searching
episode.
around.
Yeah.
And what happens on this, because most of the light sources are coming just from the headlamps and just from the phones, there's no environmental lighting going on until they go into those spaces that have the red. But that goes away very quickly. You see the red, and then as it goes on, it's getting darker and darker, it feels like. And the blacks are so crushed that there's almost no information around them.
Yeah.
Right? So when they're walking through the stuff, it's like, especially when they just have their phones, it's so black behind them. And to me, if you can't see behind them, there's like this whole element of horror that you're losing, because you can't, like, your eyes, there's nothing to look for. There's nothing like,
Oh,
Like,
interesting point.
You know what I mean?
Wow,
like,
yeah.
especially when they're trying to make it feel like there's a killer somewhere and all this stuff. Like, if they're able to lift those blacks a little bit, just so there's some information behind them, it just adds that whole other element of your eye looking for shit in the background and making
Interesting
that
point,
fear,
Ben.
right? Like, playing on the imagination a little bit. Like, you see a statue or something in the background that might be a person. But I respect the decision. It didn't necessarily work for me, though.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question, Ben? I really liked what I did like. That's interesting. I mean, I don't disagree with you per se for the interiors. I thought the night exteriors, though, with particularly, my ass loves some weather. Some rain. Dude, the rain was,
great.
Man. I liked the night exteriors with weather elements mixed in. I had a question for you because I thought I noticed, fucking Siri, I thought I noticed some of the weather being generated on set and some of it being comped. And I wondered, there was probably a blend, but did you notice that too? Did you notice anything? I noticed some comped rain being blended with maybe something practical.
Definitely.
But like,
there's no way at the budget that they were at, they were making
fucking
that
rain
entire
towers and
compound.
shit. Yeah.
There's no way.
Right.
I think they did a really good job. Like, and because I think the camera work was shaky and it was chaotic, where you're not noticing it for the most part. I really didn't pay too much attention to the fake rain.
I mean, I'm just obsessed with it, so I paid attention to it. But
I didn't really notice too much comping going on, mostly because I was just paying attention to what was happening on screen.
Comping for us noobs.
It just means they computer generated in post. They computer generated thicker rain and trying to, because
And you noticed that there was comping.
I think there was. It's certain
There
with certain
definitely
shots.
was, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's just like they have a couple shots where they're like coming towards the car, and you see 100 feet behind them, and they're not covering that much.
Exactly.
There's no way they had that in the budget and the time and however long this shoot was. I'm sure it was not a long shoot.
But night exteriors overall,
those look good.
Okay,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, those
I liked
looked a lot better, and those were definitely looked more lit.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to see the rain unless you light it.
No.
Because they're in the middle of nowhere and there's no power, so you need to be able to backlight that rain so you can see it. So, if they did their interior method, it would just be blackness and there'd be no point in even having rain in the first place.
Totally.
To see it.
Dale, could you check the budget real quick on the film?
Yeah, I'm
also,
curious
you got
about it too.
5% left if you want to hit. This one's going to be.
Oh, jeez. All right, we got the soundboard. I haven't used it yet, but let me just get a couple just for the people. Get the sounds.
Yeah.
Max.
We can't hear it.
Okay, well, all right. Well, the Max sound effects came on. Oh, this one's gonna be a hit. All right, that was electric. I'm glad we did that for the people.
This is great. You guys are gonna. Again, me and Ben have no idea what just happened, but.
We're gonna fix the soundboard. Don't you guys worry. So,
budget. In terms of comping,
I know sometimes they show it on IMDb, sometimes they fucking don't. I don't think they are.
Looking for the budget, and I could not find it.
Yeah, wait. I can't. It's not showing because usually it would show around here.
What about on just IMDb? Does IMDb?
Hold on.
Oh, we're on IMDb.
What do we think the budget was?
Oh Christ! Hold on.
It's gonna be more than 30 or 40, right?
Oh, way less.
Yeah.
You got to think about the actors that are in it. A lot of them are unknown or little known. Sorry, Ben, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
$5 million. That's my guess.
Really?
Totally. I think that makes sense. It might have been. Do you feel like it might have been lower even than 5?
Yeah, 5. I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have. I mean, just because they really didn't have any big names. They had my dude Skeet Davidson for like 3 days.
Okay.
Who I'm sure they shelled out a chunk of cash to get him.
Fascinating.
But the rest of that, it was like, again, the way they lit it wasn't a big lighting package. I'm sure they didn't need a massive crew for that. The production design was really good, but there really wasn't too much complicated visual effects going on. Relatively no-name cast.
So cheap.
I think they did it for very cheap. I'm sure the shoot was probably 25 to 30 days. That would be my guess. But yeah, if it was between $3 to $5 million, I would not be surprised.
Fuck, I can't. It's hard to find.
My perspective is so inflated now that they spend so much money on some movies these days. That it's just like everything's got to be above 10 to 15 when it's done with a a production company or a studio.
And think who's behind it too. A24, like they're making sub $10 million films for the most part, or like putting their name behind these sub $10 million films.
Which is very exciting because we know this film's going to make more than $10 million.
It's made like almost 5 so far. So it probably is like
It's only made $5 million?
under that, but yeah, based on reported numbers, yeah.
Oh.
I feel like it'd be
Which is
making
pretty,
more.
which kind of, well, that's what I said though. I said up top, like IMDb, the number of ratings, which is generally a good, I think the number of people who have rated the film in IMDb is potentially a good metric for in just engagement overall. It's not the best. It can be an indicator of how many people have just seen a thing. And it's only 3.3 thousand, which is
Why do you think that is?
a little lower.
Marketing, demograph, just
I
the
think
fact that it's a horror film and not a lot of people
I mean, you
watch
guys have seen the
horror.
trailer. I fucking haven't seen it. I didn't watch it. I'm glad I didn't.
It wasn't good, but do you think maybe it's because people like the horror group is like people that are going to the movies are still trying to see like Nope, because there's not really any other horror movies out right now.
Interesting.
They probably shouldn't have released this in the wake of Nope.
Yeah.
I don't know, like
I will say
don't
this
know.
feels like a great Halloween weekend film, like month back to school kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious why we did it the month before school.
here's a thought, from a business thought that they may or may not have had.
Great.
Is okay, we'll release it theatrically. Let's see if we can grab, at least make our money back,
Box
and
office
maybe
sales.
make a profit at the box office, and then we're gonna push hard for this thing when it hits streaming, and we'll keep pushing hard because people who the generation that we want to watch this probably won't go to the theater to see it. They'll probably watch it on streaming.
It's a good streaming film.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it'll do well. I think when it hits Netflix or wherever the fuck it's gonna hit, wherever
do you think
A24
it'll
negotiates,
go?
probably Netflix.
Yeah.
Probably a bunch of I think A24. I don't know what their negotiations have been of late. I know they put a lot of films post theatrical onto Netflix. I know they put. Do you have any insight on? Like, I've noticed they put a lot of shit on Netflix.
Maybe Amazon Prime or not?
I think so. That's an interesting question. Trying to think of.
What was A24's like last big film? Where'd that end up?
Hold on, I gotta think about that. Holy shit!
A24's. Why don't you just type in A24 real quick?
I wish I could think off
And
top.
it'll probably pump out a nice result. Just hit Control T so you don't have to change the page.
Gabe. I'm not as good with computers as you, dude.
You'd be surprised.
I feel like Al right now. Jeez, I didn't have to do Al like that.
Damn, we love you, Al.
We love you, Al. We love you, Al.
Hell
Oh fucking A. Hold on.
Oh, Marcel the Shell.
Which, by the way, I did not see. Dude, the whale's gonna be. I'm stoked for the whale.
For sure.
Wait, what? Where am I going? Oh, Men. It was Men. It was the Alex Garland thing. Yeah. After Yang to Everything Everywhere.
Everything Everywhere.
Which was
You
huge.
have to buy that, I think, still. Everything Everywhere.
That one exploded.
X ended up on Hulu, didn't it?
X gonna give it to you.
If you think so, then
I think
yes.
it ended up on Hulu.
After Yang, I saw, by the way, wasn't for me personally, even though I love Colin Farrell. Men was another big one. I thought Men did pretty well for them. Am I tripping? Like, I don't know if you saw
I
it.
have no idea. I didn't see it.
Did you see it, Ben?
No, I wanted to, but I was in Bama
It
shooting.
looked creepy
Yeah.
AF.
So you're saying X ended up on Hulu.
I think so.
Everything Everywhere is still floated. It hasn't hit like streaming yet.
Must have hit
The
streaming
Tragedy of
now.
Macbeth.
That's Apple.
That is Apple.
A24 was. Yeah,
Got
A24
their
was
hands on everything.
yeah. Red Rocket, which I don't think did that well.
Come on, a lot of people like that, but that was a
I loved
small-
Come On,
That's
Come
also
On.
Apple, I think, right?
I think you're right about that.
Okay, so A24 is like their shit can be bought.
Yeah.
So you can it clearly, which makes sense. It's a good model.
Green Knight, Dale's favorite film.
Oh my god.
Favorite film in the world.
You and I have talked briefly about Green Knight. Like,
Yeah.
looks amazing,
Didn't like it.
but the movie itself, I was like,
Doo-doo caca.
But yeah.
there's still shots from that movie that I like replay in my head because they're great. But
How did they? Oh, because of budget. Yeah. So yeah, they're doing mostly sub $10 million films.
Yeah.
For the most. I mean.
which is why Bob Eggers did 2 fucking movies with them, and then did not do The Northman with them because he wanted like a,
$80
zillion
million
dollars
or
for The
whatever,
Northman, which
yeah.
Don't know if that was a great move. Now, how did he dupe whoever he duped into giving him that amount of money? I have to give him credit. That's crazy. Like, third movie, like, give me $80 million.
Good for him.
Shout out to him. Like, hope he used that money. Hope he didn't just, dump it all into. Aren't you a crypto guy? You're a crypto guy.
I am a crypto guy.
All right, whatever. Didn't want to insult the crypto community. You know what I
Shit
mean?
on them.
Big B in the circle on your shirt.
And most of them are down.
Oh, the Bruins should do like a Bitcoin
Yeah,
shirt.
I'm saying.
Shout out to the Crypto.com Center or whatever. Fucking.
Wait, so question for Ben.
Yeah.
If you felt that the
Ben was getting some great shit. Can we go back to Ben's
I was gonna say,
cinematography
in
shit?
terms of choice of practicals in this film, if you think it may disservice the film just on like a genre level, outside of circumstances, like present circumstances in a movie, A, would you still feel inclined to try that technique in another movie? B, would you mix the technique between externals and
Exteriors and interiors.
Thank you, exteriors and
Yeah, I
interiors.
mean, the way that I like to light is you do both, right? You can use practicals to key or give like a hair light and add to it. But I try and do both, and it totally depends on the environment you're in and what the script calls for, and like a million of these other things. I mean, I just personally don't want for a night scene like that, I don't love blacks being crushed. And on like a low budget thing, like a Magnolia Flowers, like our night stuff, those blacks a lot of times are crushed. So we literally don't have lights to make it not be crushed. Like we just didn't have the support to to light an exterior night scene, right?
Right.
Which are really hard to do on a budget.
I remember Ben read the script for Night of Grace and goes, "You didn't learn your lesson, huh? From all those night exteriors, you motherfucker." I was like, "Fuck you, man." I sent him back, "Fuck you. We're never working together again, you bitch." No, never mind. I'm joking.
But yeah, I don't think it does like what they did. I don't think it was a disservice or anything like that. I think if anything, there's a bold narrative decision behind that, which is more important. I'm just saying from a pure aesthetic standpoint, I don't like it that much, and it doesn't work for me. But I'm sure the fact that these characters who are living their lives by the phone, on the phone is everything. The phone is like, as you said, like the truth in this film. That having that be your main light source, I think is a really interesting take. I just personally, just from a purely visual standpoint, don't like that there's literally no information like around them. Like those blacks are gone. Even on the theater, there are times where you can't see anything, which is hard to do. And because there are times, because of this, like they shot anamorphic, I think, and there are times where they're shooting those fuckers wide open, and anamorphics get really, really soft. So there's a couple parts where I was watching on that big screen where I'm like, they're just like not in focus sometimes, which is also because of the the craziness and all this stuff. But they're shooting wide open for a lot of it to supplement the fact that there's no light sources except for the headlamp, the glow sticks, and the phones.
Yeah.
It was an interesting choice, and I mean, good for them and good for the DP to have the balls to
Jasper
do that.
Wolf is the
yeah,
DP.
Jasper Wolf, because I wouldn't have had the balls to do that. Definitely not.
The balls being putting out a finished product with that, or of having to deal with the execution of that.
I think both.
The execution on it, from a shooting standpoint, is a lot easier.
Yeah.
If you're just doing practical lights, which is why I was also thinking from a budget standpoint, it makes it so much easier because you're not doing all these lighting setups and all these lighting breakdowns. You don't have to like move lights around. Like you're not worrying about like your sources getting into the shot. It allows them to do, which they do, these longer takes of like following these characters, letting them move wherever the hell they want, and just capturing the moment. Because when all of your light sources are in the shot anyways, and you don't have to worry about seeing movie lights. So it definitely works, and it works for the performances, and it's cheaper, it's faster. I bet they were able to shoot crazy fast because of the lack of lighting setups they had to do. So there's all these pluses, and when I say like the balls to do it is just because you're not going to get a traditionally polished image out of it.
Right.
And obviously Jasper Wolf isn't necessarily, he's not thinking about like, oh, like my portfolio, my reel, like these aren't like real worthy shots. He's doing what's best for the story, which is awesome.
Hell yeah.
It just It's just not how I would do it.
Right.
But then again, Jasper Wolf is the one shooting the A24 film. I'm the one sitting here.
Yeah,
talking about it. So
right, and no, and you suck, so it's not, you know what I mean? It's not.
Hate on it.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, it's just not how I would do it. And it's not, and I didn't love it, but kudos to him.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying. It's like, fuck yeah, Ben just. I don't even know if I need to add on what Ben just said. I thought it was so interesting and fucking dope.
Did you guys notice it though? Like when you watched it, how black it was?
Yes.
And
I couldn't articulate it the way you just articulated it, shocker, because this is what you do for a fucking living. So I remember thinking it, especially in, there's a few shots I'm thinking of that were like medium close-ups where I was so disoriented, medium close-ups on a character where I was so disoriented and it was so, it's like you're saying, like there was so little information in the blacks that I was like, where are we? What's going on?
That's, I think,
and maybe
why
that's
I
the
liked
point.
It. That's
yeah.
why I liked it.
Could be intentional, yeah.
The thing about my first instinct is crushing the blacks, the lack of information, my eyes being zeroed in on only one spot means, oh, cool, more to the imagination what's in the background. Mm-hmm. You make a great point that very oftentimes it's not the complete lack of the image, but it's the trying to figure out what the image is that leaves more to the imagination. Right. But that said, I did like that when you are forced to look at a single point in the frame the entire time, it condenses, or it kind of like creates a feeling of claustrophobia. Mm-hmm. That's what I liked, because if I was in that actual house in the pitch black dark, my field of vision would be so small that I felt that way watching the movie, that I'm huddled shoulder to shoulder with these girls and I can only see maybe 4 to 6 feet in front of me at all times. I really appreciated what they were forcing me to look at and the way it made me feel kind of just small and alone.
It's almost like the camera is going through what the characters are, right?
Right.
It's it's just black and there's no information. And yeah, you need the headlamps and phones to see 3 feet in front of you. Yeah, it was a cool choice, definitely.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back with the Movie Addicts podcast. And we're back. We're back with the Movie Addicts podcast. Yeah, I mean, I think that's
question.
Yeah.
Director of photography. If you guys sat down and were battling out how to light some of these scenes, would you feel inclined to lean into Ben's knowledge, or would you push hard for trying?
Depends on what it is. Sometimes Ben knows better.
Okay.
Sometimes Ben knows better, and I have to go, he knows better. I'm going to trust what he's doing. And sometimes I need to, especially now, I'm a more confident. I think we haven't worked together in a while, and so on Magnolia Flowers, I was not as confident as I am now in my storytelling. Okay. And so I think now, next project we do, I think it will be a little different, but Ben still always has so many great ideas that if Ben goes, hey, like, you know, I give Ben, I love giving Ben a lot of latitude to like do his fucking thing.
For sure.
And I that's why like I work with him, is because the guy's fucking more knowledgeable than me about about, you know, how we're going to tell the story visually. Yeah. I mean, granted, I'm very particular about, Ben knows this, I'm very particular about my shot lists. And so the shot list to me is the basically it's just another version of the script.
Yeah.
And from there, Ben and I need to be on the same page about that. And then we're probably going to consolidate things on the day. We'll scrap some things. We'll come up with, you can always see like in Ben's eyes, you know, when like, it's like when we're going to do the sequence where, I mean, something very bad happens in Magnolia Flowers. I guess I don't want to spoil it, but and Ben and I came up. Ben was like started coming up with a way to like shoot that in a way that he found very exciting. And Ben's like, "Oh, it's gonna be great." You know what I mean? Like, and so like if he's that excited about it, I'm like, it's gonna work, and it totally does. I think in Magnolia Flowers, that sequence, despite how hard it was to fucking shoot and edit, that sequence ends up working, and people go, "Ah!" Like people sort of go like, "Oh fuck," you know. Yeah. And I think that's just because Ben knows what the fuck he's doing, so I have to like give him the latitude to. But
Ben, do you ever feel the need to like push back hard against the director on certain?
Yeah, it's a
requests?
good question.
every once in a while, if I mean, because at the end of the day, it's not my film. The director's been on it for a lot longer. They could be writing it for years. They have the entire vision. So there's every once in a while, I'll give hard pushback if I like truly believe that what they're trying to do is not good for the film.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
that does not happen that much. And at the end of the day, all I can really say is like, hey, this is what I think you should be doing, because what you're doing is going to lead to either these problems or
Yes.
narratively it doesn't make sense in this part. And this is a better way of approaching it that will either be easier, cheaper, and lead to better results from a narrative standpoint. But if you still want to do this, we will do it your way, because it's your film. But that doesn't happen too much, because the people that hire me, generally we do the shot list together and we talk a lot about visuals and try and do as much prep leading up to it. So there's not too much conflict happening on at least the sets that I'm on most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every once in a while though, but it's normally nothing too big.
Well, because you're very steady-handed and you're very good at explaining. Because I can remember moments where I think we disagreed on Magnolia Flowers at least, and you explained to me, well, this is why I think we should do the thing I'm proposing and not the thing you want to do. And I go, okay, that sounds like a good. Like, you're good if you don't bring very much emotion into it in a good way. Mm-hmm. You don't bring very much emotion into the conversation. You just go like, this is why. You just make your argument, and I go, okay, yeah, that's a good argument. Let's go with it. You know what I mean? That's like I think that's a good way to work.
Yeah, I think a cinematographer should be, if they're going to say no to a director, then they need to be giving a better solution, right?
Yes.
Because everyone has opinions, but if you're going to give one, and I think there's not a lot of people on set who should be telling a director yes or no, but I think when it comes to the image, if you're going to say something, then you need to give a better, like a wholeheartedly better option.
Totally.
Which, sometimes it works, and sometimes the director's like, no, I want to do it my way, and you go, okay. And then
There you go.
9 out of 10 times, it doesn't work out for them when they do it.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that, you son of a bitch. No, because that's why. But I don't know, man. I try not to, like, that's the thing, is I try not to bring too much ego into it, which is why I like working with Ben, because I don't think we're bringing. I think we just want the movie to be good.
Yeah.
So there's not like that much, like, we're not gonna like fight over something where it's actually there's an answer that we need to make a choice.
Yeah.
Let's make the best choice that we can make in the moment, and then also I'm gonna get to cut the movie, and
Right.
Ben's not gonna be there. He's gonna be working on something else.
Right.
So if the thing we tried doesn't totally work, then it's my job to like rewrite it at the tail end of the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it doesn't work, that's assuming it doesn't work. If it does work, then I gotta, like make sure that I, enhance that in the edit. But
Yeah, and there are times where like I might not get what a director is trying to do. And then sometimes in that situation, you just gotta have faith in, like, you came onto this project because you like the director, you like the script. They've been working on it for however long.
Mm-hmm.
Like they know it better than you. Even if you've read it a million times, they've read it a million times more. So you just gotta have faith, because there's been some times where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this director's trying to do in this scene, and they've explained it to me. So you just gotta have a little faith, and then it works out normally, right?
Yeah.
Unless what they're pitching is just like gonna be terrible for camera or lighting, but like that doesn't happen too much.
But to me, I am in this line of work to learn, so I don't go into it always presuming I know.
Right.
I think I know what I want, but I want to learn how to better explain or convey to people what I want. So like I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
think with like the DP director relationship, I think a director should be hiring a DP whose work they love, right, and whose
Totally.
work they think will elevate their film.
Yes.
So they have like a
Facts.
baseline idea of what they're going to get out of the cinematographer. So off the bat, it's not gonna be this drastically different looking thing. Like you hire, like I'm not getting hired for comedies. Like that's just not, like it's just not what I do. So if I get on a set and they're like, why the fuck is this dark and not?
Yeah,
bright?"
right,
We'll be like,
right.
well, why did you hire me to not do, you know, what every single piece
Totally.
of my portfolio?
It's not, and that's their
Says.
fault. If they hired you know, the wrong person, that's
And
kind
then that's why
their
prep is
fault.
also really good too, right? Because like you want to either watch films or talk about stuff and talk about looks and art and photography and like try and get this lookbook and try and get on the same page, so the DP can be thinking the same way as the director. Because if you guys are on the same page and you guys have spent enough time building this visual language together, then odds are, once the frame is set and the lighting is done, it's not going to be this incredibly drastically different looking
Totally.
piece, right? Because
Yeah.
you spent so much time working with each other to get on the same page. Because, you know, the DP should just, at the end of the day, it is executing the greater vision
Yeah.
of the director and the film. And yes, you're bringing your own perspective into it and all that stuff, but you're still trying to do what's best for the script.
Yeah.
But you know, it's always a process.
I try to also bake those things into the script so
Yeah.
that Ben reads it and gets an idea, at least an idea of what the fuck I would
Right.
want to do.
Right.
And I hope that I'm a good enough writer that I can convey that on paper to some extent, right?
Hell yeah. Hell
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Regarding bodies, you talked about lighting that you did or did not like.
Yeah.
What about the use of the lenses? Was there a specific scene that really stood out to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, just the way they shot it was, you know, they did the kind of the shaky cam, and I think it works in this film. I think shaky cam and handheld has become used a lot, and I think it does add to the kind of chaos of these characters and the space. And there's that one scene that like we quickly talked about when they're fighting for the gun, and the camera is just kind of like going nuts around them, and you don't know what the hell is going on,
Yeah.
and there's just like all this like auditory stuff happening, and the camera's just like moving around like crazy, and like that was, besides the red room scene, that was the most intense scene for me when they're all
Totally.
grappling over
Ooh,
that
yeah,
gun,
yeah.
and like all you it's just hearing the cameras moving around. So I thought that worked really well. I think a lot of the shaky cam was working when they're moving through the house. Sometimes I can get a little like nauseated on a big screen when it's that crazy, but
Yeah.
I think it worked in this film. It was interesting that they shot it on anamorphic. I'm curious what their like reasoning behind, you know, shooting that 2:4 aspect ratio. In I guess because that's a horror trope, right? It's shooting anamorphic. Like that's just every big horror film it feels like is shot in that aspect ratio.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if there's any other reasoning why. Because normally, like when I think you're in a house and in like a more enclosed type of set, you want that extra vertical space, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like you're not shooting mountains, you're not shooting landscapes. Like you want to have that extra headroom, and they're faster too. So if you're doing this this lighting gag, you know, anamorphics are generally going to be a lot slower. So if you shot spherical, you'd get an extra stop or two out of your lenses.
If it's not so, from someone who doesn't know too much about lenses, what's the difference between anamorphic and maybe a more traditional lens?
So
If there is a more traditional lens.
Yeah, so like the two type of lenses are anamorphic and spherical. So spherical is like when you see the like more square aspect ratio, like on TV, 16:9 and stuff like that. What anamorphic is doing essentially is it's taking the image and it's pressing it up, squeezing it up, and then in post or back on film, the projector would de-squeeze it out. So the way it works is you have a 50 millimeter spherical lens next to a 50 millimeter anamorphic lens. With a 50 millimeter anamorphic lens, you're getting double the amount of horizontal space.
Wow.
While still keeping the same compression of a 50 millimeter. So
Yeah.
put them next to each other. The face is going to look very similar. Like it's going to look like a 50 millimeter lens, same type of like depth of field and all that stuff. But with the anamorphic, you're going to get twice the amount of space on each side. You're going to get the equivalent of a 25 millimeter of horizontal space, and that works really well for landscapes, and westerns are always shot.
Did we use that Magnolia Flowers?
No.
We did not.
They're
Okay.
also very expensive.
Okay.
We were already using expensive
We were already.
lenses.
I mean, we shot it on master prime, so it's
Yeah.
we were also using very expensive lenses.
Yeah.
But anamorphic doesn't even, to me, it wouldn't have made sense for Magnolia
Okay.
Flowers. And there's all these narrative reasons behind which lens you want to use, and I think anamorphic is really incredible for car stuff and for landscapes and for stuff where you're out in an environment where you want to see a lot of stuff to the left and to the right. You don't need as much vertical space. But they can sometimes photograph faces in a weird way, and you'll have more like warping that happens on the wider ones, and there's all these like character defects that like I love about anamorphics. But with spherical, I think there's more of an intimacy behind it, and they're better for photographing faces, and you get the normal, quote unquote normal type of headroom. So when you're inside for an entire film, it sometimes maybe makes more sense to have that extra headroom because there's so much more space on the vertical plane. Yeah. But anamorphic
bodies, they chose to.
It's anamorphic. At least it looks anamorphic. And even if they for whatever reason shot spherical and cropped it to that aspect ratio.
Wow.
But it looked like anamorphic just from some of the warping I saw. And I mean that's a big horror trope. As most horrors have been and continue to be shot with anamorphic lenses.
And do you get this? Do you think, assuming it was shot anamorphic, do you think that's just to convey to the audience this is a horror film? Do you think it's sort of that simple, or do you think it runs deeper?
I don't know what the narrative reason other than that would be in this situation. Other than it could just be like an aesthetic thing. Like the DP, the director, could just straight up be like, "Oh, I like the way anamorphic
right."
looks."
Could be simple.
It could just be that simple because when I think I'm like, what would be like a narrative reason to shoot in this house where it's so dark, so you need to shoot almost wide open for most of the time, where the anamorphics can be a lot softer and harder to keep focus when you're wide open, and you're not seeing anything behind them anyways. So what would be?
Well, that's the thing. Reason? It's like my first instinct would be they're trying to make the rooms feel bigger, so they're smaller. But like you pointed out before, you can't see anything behind them.
So I have no idea. My guess would be it's just because it makes it feel like a horror film,
right?
And they like the way it looks.
Yeah.
Because it looks great, especially in the first 20 minutes when they're outside.
Yeah.
It's actually lit, and you're seeing a lot. Like you're seeing the production design a lot more. Like the scenes that are lit.
I thought it's so interesting. I think that all that stuff outside, all that setup kind of stuff, I think I was so relieved at the beginning of the film to be outside and be taking in the trees and the sunshine and the pool and I felt like very relaxed. And I wonder, and then once we're inside, I got so, literally as soon as the doors shut, and this is all probably technique related, as soon as the doors shut, even when they're just hanging out playing a game, I was like, I'm not, something's weird's going on here. This isn't, you already know genre-wise, shit's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
But you also know there's something wrong with these characters, but we don't know what it is yet. So I'm wondering if the anamorphic outside just enhances the fact that you're outside and you're living life to such an extent that it, by contrast, once you're inside, it really, you get more anxious and concerned. I don't know. It's possible. I don't know. I don't know if that sounds fair to you as a sort of like a narrative reasoning for a visual choice.
Yeah,
but
it could. I mean, I looked it up. I tried to. I was like, I'm like, what fucking lenses were these shot on? And I couldn't find anything online about like the tech specs. I mean, other than they're shot digital.
So there's a lack of. It's interesting. There's a we can't find the budget.
Yeah.
And you can't find. I wonder why that is. I don't know.
Maybe it just doesn't have the small enough budget film that the production managers just didn't.
Or the producers
share
just
that
did,
online. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be A24. Also, who knows? Could be A24 trying to guard information,
It's
but they
possible.
don't. I don't know why that would be, but it's possible. It is possible because it's so easy to publish this kind of information. I don't know.
I went on the DP's Instagram. I was like looking for like photos, and I was like, what fucking lenses did you shoot these on? Couldn't find anything. I mean, I don't think he even did any little like podcast or interview for it.
There is sort of a secretive nature to the release of this. It feels like because it did sort of almost fly under the radar for me, and I love the movie.
For me, yeah.
Kind of weird, but something to. I wonder if. I wonder. I would love to know. I don't know if you got any sense in your little research, Ben, like of what year it was shot. Like, was it shot 2020? Was it shot 2021? I don't know.
When I was going on there, I mean, I think it was 2021.
Okay.
Well, just when you go on the director's Instagram and the DP's Instagram, it is kind of like their more recent posts, like
Okay.
their app and behind the scenes photos, and that could maybe just them doing marketing, but it looked like this was shot last year.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
Okay.
So shot pretty recently.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything else we want to? We've been going for a minute. I think we should omit the pitch session. Not gonna lie, because we've been going for like 2 hours and
Yeah. What are we at right now with
2:18.
Wow, we really went in.
We really went in. Like I feel like we
This
fucking.
is the smallest film you guys have
Oh.
done too, right? Like talked about, like as far as budget and marketing.
Yeah,
It seems
probably.
Like the last
Yeah,
ones
probably.
have all
We
been
did
really big films.
Everything Everywhere, which...
Nope.
How much was Everything Everywhere?
15 to 17 million. I
Okay,
think.
yes, yeah.
That movie was actually, when you think about it, pretty big for the. I mean, it ended up being a hit. But I mean, I
I
would
still
say.
haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the number 17 tossed around.
I was just listening to an interview with the DP this morning.
Yeah.
I think he said it was 17 or.
Okay.
18.
Okay.
That's a big film for A24. Big
Yeah.
film for them.
We
for sure.
did Everything Everywhere. We did Batman, Maverick, Nope, Elvis.
Maverick, yeah,
Elvis
Mavericks.
must have been a ton of money, right? Am I crazy? Or do you
Probably.
think-
Probably
yeah.
a bunch of. Yeah.
Just imagine to get all those
It's
shots. and
period,
all that
it's
music,
2.5
Having
hours.
to pay Graceland for all the what do you call
my
it?
God, yeah.
Rights and licensing.
Oh my
and
God.
everything.
That would be the biggest pain in the fucking ass. I can't even imagine being the fucking producers and being like.
Totally.
then you're like-
and then
anyway.
last week we did
You did Bullet
Bullet
Train.
Bullet Train, which is also big.
definitely yeah. So
So this is the smallest movie.
Smallest film. Although
Um,
we are going to be doing next week
River Road,
River Road.
which is that's gonna actually even
That's
even
closer to
smaller,
Magnolia
even more
Flowers
indie
budget, yeah,
than
for sure.
than Bodies.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with dropping the pitch. I love the pitch section.
I know, but
love
it's
it.
I don't want to
No, we got to be reasonable.
So, Ben, we always decide at the end of the dust up whether the film was a cock up or a lock up.
Right.
Cock up means it sucked. Lock up means you dug it. There can also be something in between. You can do a clock up, which is kind of somewhere between.
Yeah.
Are there other combos that we've?
That's the current combo we came up with, because for me, I saw Nope. I had a negative reaction, and then me and Dale talked ourselves into loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the
because
very
it
least,
is one of those
it
movies.
became
It's really interesting.
a cock up, clock up for me on principle that you should see the film.
Oh,
is it
yeah.
worth seeing?
Because it's a piece of fucking art. It's
It
so
is.
rad. I mean,
as
it's
opposed
so.
to just like
yeah.
loving it. Like Bullet Train will be a cock up forever, a lock up forever. Love the film. Love
Yeah,
the
I
film.
dug
But
it
this
so
film,
much.
thoughts?
I mean, I definitely a lockup. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, I
when
agree.
I started this, I said I liked it, didn't love it, but the more we talked about it, the more it grew on me. Like with all the,
For sure.
the nuances and the different perspectives we talk about. Like
Totally.
there's a lot more to it than kind of on the surface when I first walked away from it, being like, oh yeah, that was fun. And then we sit here and talk about it for 2 hours, and there's a lot.
There's a
Tons
lot
of
there.
crafts, tons of
lot
craft.
there.
So definitely a lockup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun movie.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's a lock up for me.
It's a lock up for me.
Yeah, man. Go see Bodies. I thought it kicked ass. I was kind of blown away by it, to be frank. I mean, I really, really liked it. It has stuck with me.
Yeah.
Also because some of these characters, I've quite literally met some of these characters in
Yeah,
real life. Like,
yeah.
not the actors. I mean, like, I
there's
know
people.
people.
Oh my
I went to
goodness.
school with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So it
Can you
felt...
give me a quick sound bite on the right side? That. No,
Wait, what do you want?
This
one's gonna
movie's
be
gonna be a hit.
All right,
man.
hey, Bodies. This is what I have to say about that shit, man. Oh, this one's gonna be a hit. We only have 2 sounds on the soundboard. All right, we're gonna get more sounds on the
We
soundboard.
got it,
All right,
we got it.
everyone, calm down. Don't comment. Oh, get more sounds. Fuck you. God.
Lockup.
Dislike. If you dislike this episode, don't watch this episode and not give us a like or a dislike. I'd rather have you give me a dislike. I said that before, dude, but I'm serious.
Do it again.
Shoot your shot.
Yeah.
This isn't the scared ass podcast. It's the Movie Addicts podcast. Come in swinging. Come in hot. Come in with your takes ready to rip.
Also,
Don't come in scared. This isn't the Scared Boys podcast. It's the, as my manager Andy called it, it's the Attic Boys podcast.
Let's go, son.
He called us the Attic Boys. Ben
is
is now an
officially
Attic Boy.
Attic Boy.
Congratulations.
There we go.
Congratulations, my
Handshake.
friend.
Yes, welcome.
This guy's been initiated in the Attic Boys. Sam Zhang also in the Attic Boys.
That's it. Al.
Al's an Attic Boy as well.
Yep,
We're gonna get, obviously, we gotta get some like women on this podcast, so it's not just
At some point.
it doesn't turn into just the Attic Boys. It's
Oh,
Attic people.
man.
You know what I mean? But
Attic people,
yeah, man, go see Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This thing's gonna be a hit. It might not be. It might be very
Sounds like
divisive.
it's
It's definitely not a hit. The box office numbers are not demonstrating that it's a hit. A24's probably like, well, we lost a bunch of money on this one. And I'm like, no, please. No, but I'm telling you, though, my prediction about it being revived via streaming
It's a
could
great
come to
point.
fruition.
Yeah. Especially because who's the film targeted at? You were pointing out. Who's going to
Gen
watch
Zers,
it most
man.
on
Gen
streaming?
Zers.
Absolutely. Comment which sound effects you want us to add to the board. Totally.
I mean, yeah, we might not take your suggestions, though. If you comment something dumb, we're not going to take it.
we're going to go in there and be like, you are dumb. You're
Yeah,
dumb.
yeah.
You're dumb.
No, come in swinging, and we'll respect you. If you come in scared, you're hiding behind your keyboard, you don't want to like or dislike, state your opinion. Make your opinion known. Make yourself known.
Or go home.
Or go home, and don't come up in the attic,
Done.
because we'll kick your ass. This was the Movie Addicts podcast.
Love it.
This is Ben.
This
Ben,
is
does
Benjamin
Ben have
Jacob
any
Grant. Oh, do you?
socials?
If people, you actually are a person who wants people to find you. So where can people find you online? Basically, is the
Instagram is at Ben letter J Grant,
cool.
and my website is bengrantdop.com.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
And if you're a filmmaker watching this, hit Ben up. Obviously, you gotta pay my man here. He's not out here working
cheap.
for.
He's not working
it's
for
not
peanuts.
cheap. This guy's the real deal. So you better come with a bundle of cash.
Absolutely.
This guy's married now too. He's not taking these dumbass.
Got a family.
He's not gonna do your student film.
Family
Come in
man.
swinging.
Hell
I might do
yeah.
a student film.
He might do it.
If
He
it's a
might
good
do it.
script, I might do that.
If the script is good, he'll consider it. All right, there you go. I'm Dale,
This is Gabe.
and this was the Movie Addicts podcast. Thanks for watching, you son of
Hell
a bitch.
yeah. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Woo!
All right, man.
Max.
Wait, let me do Max one more
Yeah,
time.
give it to me.
All right, cool. All right, we're good, right?
Yeah, we're good. Oh yeah.
Bing, bang, boom.